Imagine discovering a timeless secret that turns your daily struggles into effortless serenity, just as ancient Zen masters did for centuries. What if the key to unshakable peace lies not in conquering life, but in learning to flow with it like a river that never fights its path? Hidden in Buddhist wisdom is a profound truth. By releasing control and embracing change, you unlock a natural calm that no storm can disturb. Embracing the natural flow of life, the illusion of control, and the secret of effortless action. In the ancient teachings of Buddhism and Zen wisdom, the core message revolves around recognizing that life is not meant to be a constant battle against circumstances, but a harmonious flow where effort aligns with natural rhythms. The document begins by highlighting how modern life conditions us to conquer, achieve, and chase happiness, leading to exhaustion and overwhelm. This approach, it explains, traps us in cycles of forcing outcomes, much like swimming upstream every day. Instead, the secret lies in releasing this illusion of control, allowing life to support us rather than fighting it. Drawing directly from the transcript, the Buddha realized 2,500 years ago that suffering stems not from life's difficulties themselves, but from our resistance to them. Every time we tense up against what is happening or fight reality, we create unnecessary pain. This is illustrated vividly through the story of the Zen master Chuang Tzu observing a butcher in ancient China. The butcher, with effortless grace, had used the same knife for 19 years without it dulling. His secret: I don't cut through the bone, I find the spaces between. This simple act embodies the principle of moving with life's natural spaces rather than forcing through obstacles, preventing wear and tear on both the tool and the user. This teaching extends to the concept of Wu Wei, described in the document as action without forcing, movement without struggle. It is not passivity or giving up on dreams, but working with life's rhythms, like a skilled sailor using the wind instead of battling it. The transcript emphasizes that this effortless way is accessible even to beginners, those who have never meditated or feel completely overwhelmed. It works because it taps into the mind's natural ability to release control and find inner calm. Consider your own breathing, as the document invites. It flows naturally without conscious forcing. This is flow in action, trusting the deeper intelligence that sustains life without micromanagement. The exhaustion many feel isn't because life is inherently hard, but because we make it harder by pushing for outcomes and carrying others' expectations. The invitation is to stop trying so hard, to imagine moving through days with the butcher's grace, finding natural paths where life flows effortlessly. The document reinforces this with the Buddha's words: "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This self-compassion is key to stopping self-sabotage, transforming from being your own worst enemy to an ally in flow. As shoulders soften and breathing deepens during the journey through these teachings, burdens release unnoticed. In practical terms, the illusion of control manifests in daily resistance, tensing against traffic, forcing productivity, or battling emotions. By yielding, we discover strength in stillness, as the greatest power comes from non-forcing. The transcript shares how ancient masters knew that the most powerful action arises from deepest stillness, and true strength from learning to yield. This core idea ties into broader Zen wisdom, Life supports you when you stop supporting everything else unnecessarily. The cells in your body change, thoughts shift, breath moves all in constant motion without your intervention. Understanding this unlocks the mind from traps of conquest. To embody this, the document suggests giving permission to stop. Stop fixing everything, pushing outcomes, carrying weights. Just for a moment, let life flow. This isn't resignation, but alignment, leading to serenity amid chaos. The teaching of Wu Wei further clarifies, it's about being active yet effortless, like the butcher's knife gliding through spaces. In Zen stories, this grace prevents dulling not just of tools, but of spirit. Resistance dulls us, flow sharpens clarity. The document warns that our taught mindset that peace is to achieve, happiness to chase, keeps us trapped. But by finding spaces between, we escape cycles. This applies to relationships, work, self-growth. Instead of forcing change, align with natural openings. Ultimately, this section's message, rooted in the transcript, is that effortless action transforms overwhelm into peace. By releasing the illusion of control, we let life's intelligence guide us, discovering that what we sought through force was always available in flow. This foundation sets the stage for deeper explorations, reminding us that serenity isn't conquered but allowed. Stories of Zen masters demonstrating flow. The wisdom of Zen masters, as captured in the document, vividly illustrates the principle of flow through timeless stories that reveal how aligning with life's natural rhythms leads to effortless peace and grace. These narratives, passed down through generations, serve as direct pointers to living without resistance, showing that true mastery comes not from conquering challenges, but from moving with them. By examining these tales, we see how Zen teachers embodied Wu-Wei action without forcing, transforming ordinary moments into profound lessons on letting life support us rather than battling it. One of the most emblematic stories is that of the Zen master Chuang Tzu observing a butcher in ancient China. As described in the transcript, Chuang Tzu watched the butcher work with such effortless grace that his knife remained sharp after 19 years of daily use. When questioned about his secret, the butcher replied with a smile, "I don't cut through the bone. I find the spaces between." This simple revelation encapsulates the essence of flow. Instead of forcing through dense obstacles, the butcher attuned himself to the natural gaps in the animal's structure, allowing his movements to glide without strain. The document emphasizes that this isn't mere skill but a metaphor for life itself. Life isn't a battle where we hack away at problems, dulling our spirit in the process. Suffering arises from resistance, as the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, when we tense against difficulties rather than finding the spaces between where movement occurs naturally. Chuang Tzu's observation teaches us that by attuning to these spaces, we preserve our energy and achieve results with minimal effort, much like a river carving its path not by force, but by following the terrain's contours. This principle extends into emotional and relational realms, as seen in the story of Master Myoan, a Zen master who ran a small tea house near a mountain temple in ancient Japan. Travelers often stopped there before their arduous journeys, and one day a distressed merchant arrived, his cart broken, goods scattered, and livelihood seemingly ruined. Crying out in despair, he lamented, "I have lost everything. My family will starve. My reputation is ruined. My life is over." Master Myoan calmly poured him tea and posed a question. "Tell me, honored guest, is the water in this cup the same water that was in the river yesterday?" Confused, the merchant replied, "Of course not, master. Water flows. It's always moving, always changing." Myoan smiled and pointed out the window to falling cherry blossoms, explaining that just as the water changes and the blossoms transform from buds to petals to soil, so too do circumstances. Nothing remains frozen. Even the greatest loss is temporary. She urged him not to hold back the river with bare hands, but to flow with the changes. This story, as the document recounts, isn't just a metaphor, it's a direct antidote to suffering from resistance. The merchant's anguish stemmed from clinging to a fixed view of his misfortune, but Myoan's teaching demonstrated flow by showing impermanence as a liberating force. By accepting the natural movement of events, he could rebuild without the exhaustion of fighting reality, embodying Wu Wei in crisis. Another profound demonstration comes from the tale of the young monk Ijo and his teacher, Master Dogen, highlighting how flow applies to inner turmoil like anger. Ijo struggled intensely with rage, exploding at criticisms and then drowning in guilt, believing himself a failure as a monk. After one outburst, he stormed into the meditation hall, declaring, "I am the same terrible person I was when I arrived here." Dogen, sweeping fallen leaves, handed him the broom and asked, "Are these the same leaves that were green on the branches just weeks ago?" Ijo realized they had changed completely, turning golden and crimson before decomposing into soil for new growth. Dogen smiled, explaining that if leaves cannot remain the same, neither can anger or guilt. They arise like waves, peak and subside naturally. He likened Ijo to the sky, vast enough to hold storms without being changed by them. This insight, as the transcript details, transformed Ijo's life. He stopped identifying with temporary emotions and started witnessing them flow through his awareness. Flow here isn't suppression but non-resistance, allowing feelings to move without clinging, revealing the unchanging awareness beneath. Dogen's gentle redirection from self-judgment to observation shows Zen mastery, using everyday elements like leaves to point to effortless being. The document further illustrates flow through Master Hangpo and the anxious businessman Tanaka. Tanaka, tormented by fears of losing his wealth, pleaded for a teaching to end his suffering. Hangpo picked up a priceless porcelain cup and shattered it on the floor. Shocked, Tanaka gasped, "Master, that cup was priceless. Why destroy something so beautiful?" Hangpo responded with compassion, "Are you suffering because the cup is broken, or because you believed it would last forever?" He explained that the cup fulfilled its purpose, holding tea, bringing beauty, and now taught impermanence. Tanaka's anxiety wasn't protecting his business, but preventing enjoyment of his success. By clinging to permanence, he resisted flow. Releasing this allowed him to appreciate life like a seasonal flower. Paradoxically, his business thrived as decisions came from clarity, not fear. Hangpo's dramatic act demonstrates Zen's direct pointing. Flow emerges when we stop trying to make temporary things permanent, yielding to change as an ally. Finally, the story of Master Bankei before his awakening exemplifies flow through surrender. Bankei pursued enlightenment through extreme practices, fasting to skeletal thinness, meditating to collapse, nearly killing himself in the process. Coughing blood and believing death near, he felt relief. Finally, I can stop trying so hard. In that surrender to impermanence, he experienced the peace he chased. He realized enlightenment wasn't hidden, but obscured by grasping. It was present in every letting go moment, like breath coming and going without control. Bankei later taught, "You are already perfect exactly as you are. Your only problem is that you don't believe it." Don't fight thoughts or chase feelings, just notice they flow while you remain. This narrative shows flow as non-striving awareness, where growth happens naturally without force. These stories collectively demonstrate Zen Master's embodiment of flow, Chuang Tzu's butcher gliding through spaces, Myoan's tea revealing changes movement, Dogen's leaves teaching emotional transience, Hangpo's shattered cup exposing attachment's futility, and Bankei's surrender unveiling inherent perfection. As the document weaves them, they invite us to stop upstream swimming, trusting life's rhythms for serenity. By living these lessons, we transform resistance into grace, discovering effortless action as our natural state. How resistance creates suffering. The Buddhist and Zen teachings in the document profoundly explain that resistance is the root cause of much human suffering, not the inherent difficulties of life itself. As the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago, our pain arises primarily from opposing what is, rather than flowing with it. This resistance manifests as tensing against circumstances, clinging to what we desire, or pushing away what we fear, creating an internal battle that exhausts the mind and body. By understanding how this mechanism operates, we can begin to release it, allowing life's natural flow to bring serenity instead of struggle. The transcript emphasizes that every time we fight reality, whether through denial, force, or attachment, we are cutting through bone instead of finding the effortless spaces between, as in the butcher's story, leading to unnecessary wear and overwhelm. At its core, resistance stems from a misunderstanding of life's nature. We've been conditioned to view existence as something to conquer, peace as an achievement, happiness as a pursuit, and difficulties as enemies to defeat. But this mindset, the document explains, keeps us trapped in cycles of exhaustion. The Buddha's insight reveals that suffering, dukkha, doesn't originate from external events like loss, illness, or conflict, but from our aversion to them. When we tense up against a challenging situation, say a job loss or a heated argument, we amplify the pain by adding layers of mental opposition. This shouldn't be happening, or I can't handle this. This creates a secondary suffering far greater than the initial event, like trying to hold back a river with bare hands, as Master Myoan taught the distressed merchant. The water flows regardless, but our futile effort to stop it drains our strength and spirit. The transcript illustrates this through the profound truth of impermanence, anicca, where resistance often intensifies because we refuse to accept change. Everything, pain, joy, circumstances, even our sense of self is in constant motion, yet we cling to moments of happiness as if they could be frozen forever and push away pain as if it were permanent. This clinging, the Buddha likened to cupping water in your hands and crying when it slips through your fingers. Consider the story of the merchant whose cart broke. His despair came not from the broken cart itself, but from resisting its implications, viewing it as a fixed ruin rather than a temporary shift. Master Myoan pointed to the flowing tea water and falling cherry blossoms to show that circumstances like nature, are always changing. By resisting this flow, trying to hold back the river, he suffered needlessly. Once he embraced the change, he could respond adaptively, rebuilding with clarity instead of panic. The document stresses that this resistance turns transient difficulties into enduring torment, while acceptance lightens the load, knowing nothing stays the same. Emotional resistance provides another clear example of how suffering escalates. In the tale of the young monk Ijo, his anger and subsequent guilt created a vicious cycle because he fought these feelings, believing them permanent flaws in his character. He exploded in rage at criticisms, then wallowed in shame, declaring himself a failure. Master Dogen's lesson with the fallen leaves revealed that emotions, like autumn foliage, arise, transform, and pass naturally if we don't resist them. Ijo's suffering intensified from identifying with the anger, "I am a terrible person," rather than witnessing it as a temporary wave. By resisting, he prolonged the storm. By flowing with it, he discovered he was the unchanging sky holding all weather. The transcript notes that you are not your emotions, but the awareness experiencing them, and resistance fighting the wave turns peaks into prolonged valleys. Even intense anxiety, as in Tanaka's story, isn't solid. It shifts like ocean waves. Resisting by clinging to control, e.g., worrying endlessly about loss, prevents noticing its natural rhythm, creating exhaustion. Tanaka's torment came from believing his success must last forever, resisting impermanence. Shattering the cup, Master Hangpo showed that such belief is the true source of pain. Grief and loss further demonstrate resistance's toll, as in Kisa Gotami's heartbreaking quest. After her son's death, she carried his body begging for medicine to revive him, resisting the reality of mortality. The Buddha sent her for a mustard seed from a house untouched by death, and she discovered every home had known loss. This universal truth shifted her. Death wasn't a cruel exception, but part of life's cycle. Her suffering stemmed from resisting this, clinging to her son as permanent. By accepting impermanence, her raw grief softened into tender memories, transforming pain into compassion. The document explains that impermanence doesn't diminish grief, but comforts by showing even deepest pain moves and evolves. Resisting denying the cycle makes loss feel insurmountable. Flowing with it allows healing, as waves become gentler swells feeding growth. In daily life, resistance appears in subtler forms, like self-doubt or stuck patterns. The transcript describes being trapped in draining jobs or unserving relationships, where circumstances seem solid because we resist their shifting nature. Small openings for change exist, but resistance blinds us, creating suffering from perceived permanence. Master Bankei's pre-awakening struggles exemplify this. His extreme practices resisted his inherent perfection, nearly destroying him. Only in surrendering, accepting even death, did he flow into peace, realizing enlightenment was obscured by forcing. Resistance here was striving to become what he already was, causing self-torment. The Buddha's teaching on the three marks of existence, impermanence, suffering, and non-self ties this together. We suffer because we resist change, clinging to a solid self that doesn't exist. This desperate control, like trying to stop time's river, breeds greed, hatred, and delusion. Yet, the document offers hope. Understanding resistance's futility leads to curiosity over dread, seeing challenges as teachers, Joshua's longevity at 120 stemmed from meeting each moment without wishing it different, flowing with time's river. Ultimately, resistance creates suffering by opposing life's effortless intelligence, as seen in breathing's natural flow. The transcript invites imagining life without this fight, shoulders softening, burdens lifting. By recognizing resistance, white-knuckled clinging or mighty pushing, we can yield, finding strength in stillness. This isn't passive but wise, turning exhaustion into support. As the ancient masters knew, the greatest action comes from non-forcing, and peace from letting life flow unimpeded. Practical steps to align with life's rhythms. Aligning with life's natural rhythms is not an abstract philosophy, but a practical approach rooted in Buddhist and Zen teachings, as detailed in the document. It involves shifting from resistance and force to effortless action, or wu-wei, by tuning into the inherent flow of existence. This alignment transforms daily overwhelm into serenity, allowing life to support you rather than requiring constant battle. The transcript provides concrete steps drawn from ancient wisdom, stories, and direct invitations to practice, emphasizing that these methods work even for beginners who feel overwhelmed or have never meditated. By following these steps, you cultivate trust in the deeper intelligence, sustaining your breath, body, and experiences, much like the effortless grace of the ancient butcher finding spaces between bones. The first practical step is to cultivate awareness of resistance in the present moment. The document stresses that suffering arises from tensing against what is, so begin by pausing during moments of stress to notice where you're fighting reality. For instance, when feeling like you're swimming upstream, perhaps in a demanding job or emotional turmoil, take a deep breath and ask, "What am I resisting right now?" This mirrors the Buddha's insight that pain comes from opposition, not events themselves. The transcript invites you to observe your breathing as a model. It flows naturally without forcing, deepening on its own when you settle. Practice this by sitting comfortably, grabbing a soft blanket or pillow, and exhaling deeply, knowing this is the first step toward letting life support you. Over time, this awareness reveals burdens you didn't realize you carried, like others' expectations or the need to micromanage outcomes. The goal is to give yourself permission to stop trying so hard, imagining daily movement with the butcher's grace, finding natural spaces where life flows effortlessly. A second step is to embrace impermanence through direct observation of change. The document teaches that everything is in constant motion, cells changing, thoughts shifting, breath cycling, and resisting this creates exhaustion. To align, practice noticing impermanence in your environment. For about 10 seconds, focus on a sound like traffic, the air on your skin, or room light. Then observe how it has shifted. This isn't philosophical but a living reality, as the transcript explains. Even in brief moments, you've witnessed flow. Apply this to personal struggles. If anxiety feels overwhelming, watch its rhythm rising and falling like waves without fighting. Tanaka's story illustrates this. His business fears stemmed from resisting change, but recognizing impermanence via the shattered cup allowed him to appreciate success without clinging, leading to clearer decisions. Practically, over the next few days, track a fear or pain. Note its intensity variations based on time, thoughts, or environment. You'll see it's not solid but shifting, losing power when viewed as temporary. This step fosters security, not by stopping change, but by flowing with it gracefully, like learning to swim rather than battling water. Third, integrate the middle way to respond dynamically rather than reacting from extremes. The document describes the Buddha's discovery under the Bodhi tree. After years of asceticism and indulgence, he found balance through nourishment without excess, leading to enlightenment. Practically, when overwhelmed, pause and ask, what does this moment actually need? Avoid pushing harder or escaping. Instead, prioritize essentials, ask for help, or take a conscious break for restoration. Master Linky's bamboo analogy guides this. It bends with wind lightly in gentle breezes, deeply in storms without breaking or losing nature. In relationships or work, notice swings between over-responsibility and avoidance. Then experiment with the responsive center. Engage fully when needed, rest when wise. The transcript outlines qualities like mindfulness, seeing clearly without stories, right effort, engaging without forcing, like tuned sitar strings, and equanimity, staying centered amid ups and downs. Practice by applying to daily rhythms, eat when hungry, sleep when tired, without adding temporal burdens. Fourth, practice letting go of attachment to outcomes and identities. The document warns that clinging to happiness, pain, or self-stories blocks flow, like cupping water and crying as it slips away. Start by identifying what you're holding tightly, a changing relationship, ending job, or outdated self-version. Then, gently release the desperate control, not by abandoning dreams, but by trusting their unfolding. Master Bankei's surrender exemplifies this. Exhausted from forcing enlightenment, he let go in near death, discovering peace in non-striving. Practically affirm, you are already perfect. Stop fighting temporary experiences. In meditation or quiet moments, notice thoughts and feelings arise and pass without grasping. You're the awareness, not the weather. Extend to others. Love without possessing, as in Sarah's realization that depression was like inner clouds, temporary in vast awareness. This step creates adaptability. Admit wrongs without threat, change minds without betrayal, evolve without fear of losing you. Finally, extend metta, loving kindness, to align rhythms with compassion, starting with self. The transcript quotes the Buddha, "You deserve your love and affection." Practice by placing a hand on your heart. May I be happy, peaceful, free from suffering. Notice conditional voices, but first fix this and gently release them. Your worth is inherent. Expand to others, wishing well without needing reciprocation, as Ani Parshon did with lepers, finding love fuller through giving. In challenges, like Kisa Gotami's grief, accept shared human flow without isolation. Daily, speak mindfully. Truth, kindness, usefulness, harmony, pausing before words to ensure they serve. Master Joshu's. Go, drink tea cut through complexity, pointing to presence. To free from time anxiety, return to now. Past is memory, future imagination. Engage plans without depending on them for peace. These steps, awareness of resistance, observing impermanence, middle way responsiveness, letting go, and compassionate alignment drawn from the document's teachings and stories, build effortless living. Practice consistently, start small, like breathing deeply amid stress, and notice shoulders softening, burdens lifting. Life's rhythms become allies, revealing peace in yielding, as masters knew, greatest strength from flow, not force. The power of yielding for inner strength. The power of yielding, as illuminated in Buddhist and Zen teachings from the document, reveals that true inner strength emerges not from rigid control or forceful resistance, but from the graceful surrender to life's natural flow. This yielding is the essence of Wu-Wei effortless action, where we align with rhythms rather than oppose them, transforming vulnerability into unshakable resilience. The transcript emphasizes that the greatest strength is found in learning to yield. As ancient masters knew, the most powerful action often springs from deepest stillness. By yielding, we stop making life harder than it needs to be, allowing its supportive intelligence to carry us, much like a sailor harnessing the wind instead of fighting it. This isn't weakness or passivity, but a profound wisdom that unlocks serenity amid chaos, turning burdens into effortless movement. At the heart of this power is the recognition that resistance depletes while yielding replenishes. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from clinging and aversion, creating internal battles that exhaust us. Yielding dissolves these by accepting what is, as seen in the story of the butcher observed by Chuang Tzu. The butcher's knife stayed sharp for 19 years because he yielded to the natural spaces between bones, not forcing through them. This yielding preserved his tool and energy, embodying inner strength through non-opposition. The document explains that life isn't meant for conquest. Our exhaustion comes from tensing against difficulties, like cutting through bone instead of flowing through gaps. By yielding, we tap into a deeper power, the same that keeps our breath flowing without conscious effort. Imagine applying this. In a heated argument, instead of pushing back, yield by listening deeply, finding spaces for understanding. This doesn't mean conceding, but responding from clarity, conserving strength for what truly matters. The transcript further illustrates yielding's strength through impermanence, where clinging to permanence weakens us, but yielding to change fortifies. Master Mayoan's teaching to the distressed merchant highlights this. Viewing his broken cart as frozen ruin caused despair, but yielding to flow like changing water or falling blossoms revealed opportunities for renewal. Mayoan urged flowing with changes rather than holding back the river, showing that yielding isn't defeat but empowerment. The merchant's initial resistance drained him. Yielding allowed rebuilding with grace, turning loss into growth. Similarly, in grief, Kisa Gotami's resistance to her son's death, begging for revival, amplified agony. The Buddha's mustard seed quest taught her to yield to life's cycle, transforming isolation into shared compassion. Her pain softened as she accepted impermanence, yielding not to despair but to healing. The document notes that even deepest grief shifts when we yield, becoming fertile ground for wisdom. Practically, yield to loss by acknowledging its temporariness. Feel the sorrow without fighting it, knowing waves subside naturally. This builds inner strength, making difficulties lighter as we know they're transient. Emotional yielding fosters resilience, as in Ego's struggle with anger. His outbursts and guilt stemmed from resisting feelings, believing them permanent flaws. Master Dogen's leaf-sweeping lesson showed yielding. Emotions change like leaves, green to golden, to soil arising and passing if not fought. By yielding to their rhythm, Ijo discovered he was the vast sky, unchanged by storms. This shift from resistance to yielding turned his weakness into strength. He no longer exploded or shamed himself, but witnessed with equanimity. The transcript clarifies, "You are awareness, not emotions. Yielding lets them flow without defining you." For anxiety, like Tanaka's, yielding means watching its peaks and valleys without control. Hangpo's shattered cup taught yielding to impermanence. Suffering came from believing things last forever. Tanaka's yield, releasing desperate grip, paradoxically strengthened his business through fear-free decisions. Yield to fears by observing their changes, reducing their solidity, and building inner fortitude. Yielding in self-perception unlocks profound strength, countering the illusion of fixed self. The document teaches anatta. No permanent self exists, only dynamic processes. Resisting this, clinging to labels like angry person, weakens, as with Sari identifying solely as temperamental. The Buddha's questions revealed her yielding. Anger was temporary, not her nature. By yielding to fluidity, she allowed patience and wisdom to emerge. Master Ikkyu's multifaceted life monk, poet, tavern-goer, showed yielding to roles without fixation, responding authentically to moments. His poem celebrates this. Having no fixed identity, I am free to become anything. Yielding to non-self means holding personalities lightly, like costumes, building strength through adaptability. In struggles, like Sarah's depression, yielding to emotions as passing clouds preserved her vast awareness, turning vulnerability into resilience. The middle way amplifies yielding's power, balancing extremes for responsive strength. The Buddha's sitar tuning realization, strings too tight snap, too loose make noise, perfect tension yields music. Yielding here means adjusting sails, dynamically bending like bamboo in wind, as Master Linki taught. The merchant Wang's dilemma, risk or caution, resolved by yielding to actual conditions, not fears. This builds strength. Mindfulness sees clearly. Right effort engages without strain. Equanimity centers amid storms. Yield to situations by asking what they require, fostering harmony over conflict. Ultimately, yielding cultivates unconditional love, metta, where strength flows from giving without need. Anipachon's care for lepers yielded to their suffering without seeking return, discovering heart's vastness. Yielding in relationships, like Sarah's with her addicted son, meant boundaries from clarity, not fear. Fierce compassion turning attachment into free love. The document's final surrender. Peace within, not sought externally. Yielding isn't giving up but releasing illusions, revealing effortless being. Masters like Joshu yielded to each moment as a friend, finding vitality in flow. This power of yielding, woven through the transcript's teachings, turns yielding into inner might, still yet dynamic, vulnerable yet unbreakable. By practicing pausing to release tension, observing change, responding wisely, we embody the butcher's grace, Dogen's sky, Bankei's perfection. Life's storms pass, yielding remains, the true strength of flow, the liberating truth of impermanence. Understanding change as the nature of existence. The Buddhist teaching of impermanence, or anicca, forms the foundational truth that everything in existence is in constant flux, a reality that the Buddha identified as the source of profound liberation when fully understood. As detailed in the document, This insight reveals that nothing, neither pain nor joy, circumstances, nor our sense of self, remains static. Right now, as you engage with these words, the cells in your body are changing, your thoughts are shifting, and your breath is moving in a rhythm that has sustained you since birth. The transcript emphasizes that this constant motion is not a curse but a gift. The very thing causing suffering, that difficult situation, overwhelming emotion, or hurtful person, is already transforming even as we speak. By grasping anicca, we move from resistance to flow, discovering peace in any storm. The Buddha called this the reality where all conditioned things pass away, and seeing it clearly leads to freedom from clinging. At its core, impermanence means that no aspect of life holds inherent permanence. Everything arises, peaks, and dissolves like waves in an ocean. The document illustrates this through the Buddha's observation that our suffering stems not from difficulties, but from denying this change. We cling to happiness as if it could be preserved indefinitely, and avert pain as if it were eternal, creating exhaustion from futile control. This is like trying to cup water in your hands and lamenting its inevitable escape through your fingers. The transcript points out that even your current thoughts differ from those 5 minutes ago. Your body has birthed new cells while others died, and your breath has cycled thousands of times. You are literally not the same person who began reading this. This realization can unsettle at first. Where is security if all changes? But the Buddha discovered true security in flowing with change, not halting it. It's akin to swimming with currents rather than against them. The water becomes an ally when we yield. A key story exemplifying this is that of Master Myoan and the distressed merchant in ancient Japan. The merchant, his cart shattered and goods lost, wailed that his life was over. Myoan poured tea and asked if the cup's water was the same as yesterday's river water. "Of course not," he replied. "Water flows, always changing." Gesturing to cherry blossoms falling like snow, Myoan explained they were buds last month, petals today, and soil tomorrow. Nothing, not even greatest loss, stays the same. The question, will you flow with changes or hold back the river barehanded? This narrative, as the document recounts, directly points to suffering's source, resisting natural flow. The merchant's anguish arose from freezing his circumstances in despair, but understanding impermanence liberated him to see his situation as temporary, enabling adaptive response. The blossom's cycle, bud to petal to nourishment, mirrors existence. Change isn't destruction but transformation, feeding new growth when we don't resist. This truth extends to emotions and inner states, as seen in the young monk Eijo's transformation under Master Dogen. Eijo battled anger, exploding, then guilting himself, believing it defined him permanently. After an outburst, Dogen handed him a broom amid fallen leaves, asking if they were the same as weeks ago green branches. No, Eijo realized. They've changed utterly and will decompose into soil. Dogen smiled. If leaves can't remain static, how could anger or guilt? They arise, peak like waves, and subside naturally. Eijo was the sky, vast and unchanged by passing storms. The document stresses this shifted Eijo's life. He stopped fighting temporary states, recognizing himself as awareness, witnessing them. Emotions aren't solid enemies, but shifting experiences. Resisting prolongs them, while understanding change allows natural dissolution. This applies universally. Your anger today differs from yesterday's, influenced by mood, environment, body, proving nothing endures unchanged. Impermanence also liberates in worldly anxieties, like businessman Tanaka's torment over potential loss. Wealthy yet sleepless, he begged Master Hangpo for relief. Hangpo shattered a priceless porcelain cup, asking if suffering came from breakage or belief in foreverness. The cup fulfilled its purpose, holding tea, bringing beauty now, teaching that nothing lasts. Tanaka's anxiety didn't protect, it blocked enjoying now, yielding to temporariness. Like appreciating seasonal flowers, he wept in release, then managed his business from clarity. Paradoxically, without clinging, it thrived. The transcript notes this: impermanence doesn't negate effort, but frees it from fear, turning decisions into flow. In grief, Kisa Gotami's story profundifies change's nature. Mad with loss, she sought medicine for her dead son. The Buddha requested a mustard seed from a death-untouched house. Every home offered seeds, but shared losses. By river's edge, she understood, death completes life, inevitable as sunset. Yielding, she buried her son, finding she's not alone, grief shared, temporary. The Buddha affirmed, all conditioned things impermanent. Seeing this brings peace amid sorrow. Her acceptance turned raw pain into sustainable love, embracing joy and sorrow as natural. Even entrenched patterns shift, as Master Bankei learned. His extreme pursuits nearly fatal, surrender in illness yielded peace. Enlightenment present in letting go, like uncontrolled breath. He taught, your Buddha nature experiencing temporary flows. Notice they come and go while you remain. This ultimate freedom, no need to fix self, as impermanence reveals vast unchanging space. The three marks impermanence: suffering, non-self interlink. We suffer resisting change, clinging to illusory solid self. Zen saying, you are perfect as you are, and could use improvement. Dynamic existence, where improvement flows naturally without fight. Master Joshu's 120 years, meeting moments without holding yesterday or reaching tomorrow, curious what change reveals. Understanding change as existence's nature liberates. Challenges become growth opportunities. Losses reveal what matters. Uncertainty births possibilities. The document invites practicing. Notice environment shifts. Feel relief. Struggles already changing, not solid. You're safe in flux, whole when falling apart, free to flow. This truth settles deeply. Change isn't enemy but force enabling transformation. Trust it. Let it carry you to sought peace. Overcoming grief and loss through acceptance. The journey through grief and loss, as illuminated in Buddhist teachings from the document, reveals that acceptance of impermanence is the key to transforming overwhelming sorrow into a path of compassion and inner peace. Rather than diminishing the validity of pain, acceptance acknowledges its temporary nature, allowing it to shift and evolve naturally without resistance. The transcript emphasizes that even the deepest grief is not a permanent resident in the heart. It moves, softens, and becomes fertile ground for wisdom when we stop fighting its presence. This overcoming isn't about getting over loss quickly or pretending it doesn't hurt, but about yielding to the natural cycle of life and death, as the Buddha taught. By embracing acceptance, we discover that suffering arises not just from the loss itself, but from our desperate clinging to what cannot be controlled, turning raw edges into tender memories and isolation into shared human connection. Central to this process is the understanding that grief, like all experiences, is impermanent. The document explains that the pain of loss comes from love intertwined with resistance to life's inevitable changes. Sunrise follows sunset, birth leads to death. Clinging to the loved one as eternal amplifies agony, but acceptance reveals loss as part of the universal flow, not a personal curse. This is vividly captured in the story of Kisa Gotami, a mother devastated by her young son's death from illness. In her madness, she carried his body house to house, begging for medicine to revive him, unable to accept the finality. Villagers, moved yet knowing revival impossible, directed her to the Buddha. With infinite tenderness, he promised help, but first required a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. Hopeful, Kisa Gotami set out, receiving seeds eagerly from each home. But every family shared stories of lost loved ones, a father last year, a brother before. As the day wore on, no untouched house emerged, and by evening, sitting by the river still holding her son, she realized she was not singled out by cruelty. Death was the natural completion of life, shared by all who love. With tears of sorrow and understanding, she laid her son to rest and returned to the Buddha, whispering, "I could not find the mustard seed, but I found that I am not alone in my pain, and that even this terrible grief will not last forever." The Buddha affirmed that pain stems from resisting the cycle. All conditioned things are impermanent, and clear seeing brings peace amid sorrow. Kisa Gotami became a devoted student, her acceptance fostering a deeper love that embraced both joy and loss as natural. This story isn't mere metaphor but a practical guide. Acceptance doesn't erase grief, but offers comfort in its transience and universality. The transcript notes that raw, sharp grief gradually softens into gentler swells, evolving from potential destruction to compassion's soil. Resisting, demanding the impossible like revival, prolongs torment. Accepting the shared experience shifts perspective, reducing isolation. Practically, when grieving, acknowledge the pain without adding, "This shouldn't have happened," or "I'll never recover." Instead, notice its changes. Intensity varies by day, triggered by memories yet easing in moments of connection. This mirrors impermanence's liberating power. Knowing grief moves prevents it from defining you eternally. Another layer emerges in how acceptance transforms loss's meaning, as seen in the broader teachings. The Buddha's words on footprints, that of the elephant supreme, and on death as supreme meditative theme aren't morbid but awaken us to this moment's preciousness. Accepting impermanence makes difficulties lighter, temporary, and beautiful moments more cherished, not taken for granted. In Kisa Gotami's case, acceptance didn't numb her love, but sustained it, free from desperate clinging. The document stresses this paradox. Stop resisting pain, knowing it's temporary, and it loses overwhelming power. Stop clinging to joy, and you enjoy it fully. For those grieving relationships, jobs, or self-versions, acceptance reveals none are solid. Small shifts create change openings. Resisting views them as fixed failures. Accepting sees them as evolving, fostering resilience. Emotional parallels reinforce this. Just as Ijo overcame anger by accepting its impermanence, waves subsiding naturally, grief yields to acceptance. Fighting prolongs, yielding allows flow. Tanaka's anxiety about loss paralleled grief, clinging to permanence caused suffering, accepting transience, shattered cup, brought relief. In grief, acceptance means feeling fully without self-judgment, trusting time's healing without forcing it. The transcript invites watching grief's rhythm, peaks of intensity, valleys of calm, proving it's not monolithic. Acceptance also builds communal strength, countering loneliness. Kisa Gotami's quest showed every house knows loss, turning personal tragedy into universal bond. The document highlights this: you're not alone. Loss is human experience. Practically, share stories, talk with others who've grieved to see impermanence in action. Their pain shifted, as will yours. This fosters compassion, where your suffering becomes empathy's bridge. Yet acceptance requires courage, especially in fresh grief feeling too big to survive. The Buddha didn't tell Kisa Gotami to get over it, but guided her to insight gently. Impermanence comforts, pain transforms, not vanishes. Raw edges soften, overwhelming waves gentle. What felt destructive becomes growth's foundation. For modern applications, like losing a loved one or dream, accept by honoring feelings, cry, remember without resisting their ebb. Journal changes, how grief felt yesterday versus today, noticing subtle shifts. Master Bankei's surrender ties in, yielding to impermanence, even death, revealed inherent peace. In grief, accept loss's finality to find ongoing connection. Essence lives in heart, not form. Joshu's approach, meet moments without wishing different, curious what change teaches. Grief becomes teacher, revealing what matters. Ultimately, overcoming grief through acceptance, as the document weaves, frees us from resistance's chains. It's not cold detachment, but deeper engagement. Love sustainably, live fully, knowing nothing lasts. Kisa Gotami's transformation exemplifies, from mad denial to wise devotion, grief alchemized into wisdom. Accept impermanence, and loss, though painful, becomes path to profound peace, where heart holds all without breaking, transforming emotions like anger and anxiety. The transformative power of impermanence in addressing emotions such as anger and anxiety lies in recognizing them as temporary, shifting experiences rather than fixed aspects of our identity, as taught in the Buddhist wisdom from the document. By understanding that these emotions arise, peak, and subside naturally like waves in the ocean or leaves changing seasons, we can stop resisting them, allowing their natural rhythm to dissolve suffering without force. The transcript emphasizes that you are not your emotions, but the awareness that witnesses them. They pass through this vast space without defining or limiting who you truly are, much like storms traversing the sky unchanged. This insight doesn't suppress feelings but transforms our relationship to them, from desperate fighting which prolongs and intensifies pain, to mindful observation which reveals their impermanent nature and fosters freedom. The Buddha's teaching on anicca shows that clinging to or averting these states creates secondary suffering. Accepting their flow liberates us, turning overwhelming turmoil into manageable, even insightful, experiences. Anger, often seen as a destructive force, exemplifies how resistance amplifies emotion while acceptance transforms it. In the story of the young monk Ijo, as recounted in the document, anger controlled his life. He would explode at criticisms or setbacks, then drown in guilt and shame, viewing himself as a perpetual failure. This cycle repeated for months, exhausting him because he fought the anger as a permanent flaw, declaring, "I am the same terrible person I was when I arrived here." His teacher, Master Dogen, observed silently until one autumn morning when Ijo stormed in frustrated after another outburst. Dogen, sweeping fallen leaves, handed him the broom and asked gently, "Are these the same leaves that were green on the branches just weeks ago?" Ijo examined the golden and crimson leaves, replying, "No, master, they've changed completely." Dogen probed further, "And will they remain as they are now forever?" "No," Ijo said, "they'll decompose and become soil for new growth." Smiling, Dogen explained that if even leaves cannot stay the same, neither can anger or guilt. They arise like waves, peak, and naturally subside. Ijo's belief that these temporary states defined him was the true constant, but he was more like the sky, vast enough to hold all storms without alteration. This realization shifted Ijo profoundly. He stopped battling his emotions, instead witnessing their impermanence. Anger still arose, but without resistance, it passed quicker, leaving space for patience and wisdom. The document highlights that this transformation applies to all. Anger isn't who you are, but a conditioned response. Accepting its flow prevents it from lingering, turning explosive cycles into opportunities for growth. The key practice here is observation without identification. The transcript advises noticing anger's rhythm. It intensifies in certain triggers, like criticism for Ijo, but varies by time, physical state, or environment, proving its impermanence. Resisting, suppressing, or judging it prolongs the wave. Yielding lets it crest and recede. This mirrors the Buddha's insight that emotions are part of the five aggregates: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, consciousness, constantly changing without a fixed self controlling them. By not taking anger personally, as awareness rather than the emotion, you gain freedom. Respond with wisdom instead of reaction, like Ijo, evolving from rage to equanimity. Anxiety follows a similar path, often feeling endless and solid, but impermanence reveals it as a constantly shifting experience that can be transformed through acceptance. The story of businessman Tanaka illustrates this vividly. Successful in wealth and respect, yet tormented by fears of losing everything, he couldn't sleep or enjoy his achievements, consumed by worry about the future. Pleading with Master Hangpo for a teaching to end his suffering, Tanaka offered any payment. Hangpo picked up a fine porcelain cup and shattered it on the stone floor. Tanaka gasped in horror. "Master, that cup was priceless. Why destroy something so beautiful?" With compassion, Hangpo asked, "Are you suffering because the cup is broken, or because you believed it would last forever?" He explained the cup had fulfilled its purpose, holding tea, bringing beauty, and now taught the ultimate lesson: nothing is permanent, and trying to make it so causes pain. Tanaka's anxiety wasn't safeguarding his business, but preventing appreciation of the present, like clinging to a blooming flower demanding eternal spring. Suddenly, something broke inside Tanaka, not his spirit, but his desperate need to control the uncontrollable. Tears flowed as he realized his energy had been wasted on forcing permanence onto the temporary. From then on, he managed his business with skill, but without crushing attachment. Paradoxically, it thrived as clarity replaced fear. The document stresses that anxiety, like anger, isn't a monolithic entity. It has peaks and valleys, moments of intensity and calm, influenced by thoughts, surroundings, or body. Resisting through endless worry or micromanagement turns it into a self-fulfilling cycle. Observing its impermanence reduces its grip. Tanaka's transformation shows acceptance doesn't ignore risks, but frees action from paralysis. Practically, watch anxiety over days. Note how its stronger mornings or evenings, shifting with rest or activity. This reveals its fluidity, empowering you to witness rather than be consumed. Both emotions tie into non-self. Believing anger or anxiety defines you resists their change, but recognizing them as passing mental formations liberates. Sari's story reinforces. Labeled the angry one, she identified so deeply that change seemed impossible. The Buddha's questions, "Were you angry while sleeping or laughing with a child?" showed anger as a temporary visitor, not fixed nature. Yielding to this, other qualities emerged. For anxiety, the transcript advises, "It's like weather in your inner sky, real but not you." Accepting impermanence means feeling it fully without adding "this must stop now," allowing natural subsidence. The three poisons, greed, hatred, delusion, fuel these emotions through resistance. Hatred in anger's aversion, delusion in anxiety's illusions of permanence. Impermanence dissolves them. See emotions' transience, and greed for control fades. Master Bankei's teaching, "Don't fight thoughts or chase feelings. Notice they come and go while you remain." This is freedom. In daily application, transform by pausing in emotional surges. Breathe. Observe changes without judgment. The document invites. Notice something, environmental shift in 10 seconds. Sounds, sensations, light proving nothing static. Apply to anger, anxiety. They're not solid enemies but evolving experiences. This builds resilience. Anger becomes signal for unmet needs. Anxiety cue for presence. Ultimately, transforming these emotions through impermanence, as woven in the transcript, shifts from victimhood to empowerment. Ijo's sky-like awareness, Tanaka's clarity post-shatter, both yielded to flow, finding strength in transience. Emotions lose power when seen as temporary. You gain freedom, responding from vastness. This liberating truth, accept change, and anger, anxiety become teachers, guiding to deeper peace. Impermanence in daily challenges and growth. The teaching of impermanence offers a powerful lens for navigating daily challenges and fostering personal growth, transforming what once seemed like insurmountable obstacles into opportunities for evolution and deeper understanding. As the document explains, impermanence or anicca means that no situation, no matter how entrenched or overwhelming, is as solid as it appears. Everything is constantly shifting, creating small openings for change that resistance often blinds us to. This truth doesn't minimize the reality of struggles like draining jobs, unfulfilling relationships, or patterns of self-doubt, but reveals them as dynamic processes rather than fixed realities. By accepting this flow, we stop clinging to the illusion of permanence, allowing growth to happen naturally without the exhaustion of force. The Buddha's insight shows that suffering arises from trying to control what cannot be controlled. Instead, embracing impermanence turns daily challenges into teachers, where losses highlight what truly matters, uncertainties birth new possibilities, and difficulties become fertile ground for wisdom and resilience. In everyday challenges, impermanence manifests as the subtle shifts that occur when we stop viewing problems as permanent fixtures. The transcript points out that situations like being trapped in a job that drains your spirit or a relationship that no longer serves you feel immovable because we resist their natural evolution. However, these are constantly changing. Small openings emerge for adjustment, like a conversation that sparks clarity or an unexpected opportunity that alters the dynamic. Resisting this by clinging to how things should be creates unnecessary suffering, as if trying to freeze a river mid-flow. The document invites us to notice this in action. Observe how your thoughts about a challenge differ from yesterday, how the intensity fluctuates with rest or perspective, proving nothing remains static. This acceptance fosters growth. Instead of forcing change, we align with natural rhythms, responding to openings with wisdom rather than desperation. For instance, in self-doubt cycles, impermanence reveals these as temporary mental formations, not defining truths. By watching them arise and pass without identification, space opens for confidence to emerge organically, turning the challenge into a catalyst for self-discovery. The story of the young monk Ijo illustrates how impermanence transforms emotional challenges into growth. Ijo's anger and guilt felt like permanent barriers to his monastic life, leading him to declare himself unchanging and flawed. Master Dogen's lesson with the fallen leaves shifted this. Just as leaves transform from green to golden to soil, feeding new life, so do emotions. They arise, peak, and subside, if not resisted. Ijo's growth came from accepting this. He stopped fighting his anger as a fixed identity and started witnessing its impermanence, allowing it to pass naturally. This yielded profound change. Qualities like patience and wisdom, always present but obscured, flourished. The document emphasizes that Ijo became the sky, vast and unchanged, holding storms without damage. In daily terms, apply this to anxiety or frustration at work. Notice how the emotion intensifies in meetings but eases with a walk, revealing its transience. Accepting this prevents escalation, turning the challenge into growth. Frustration signals unmet needs, prompting skillful action like setting boundaries, fostering professional development without burnout. Businessman Tanaka's anxiety about loss provides another example of impermanence driving growth through daily fears. Tormented by visions of ruin despite his success, Tanaka's challenge was mental. Clinging to permanence turned potential change into catastrophe. Master Hangpo's shattering of the porcelain cup forced acceptance. Suffering came from believing things last forever, not the breakage itself. The cup's impermanence fulfilling its role, then teaching a lesson mirrored Tanaka's business, temporary yet purposeful. Accepting this, Tanaka released his grip, appreciating success like a seasonal flower. Paradoxically, this growth led to thriving. Decisions from clarity, not fear, enhanced his enterprise. The transcript notes that anxiety isn't solid but shifting peaks and valleys, based on factors like sleep or news. In daily challenges, like financial worries, observe this. Track how fear varies, proving it's not eternal. Acceptance opens growth. Instead of reactive saving or spending, respond mindfully, building financial wisdom. Grief's daily manifestations, as in Kisa Gotami's story, show impermanence, turning profound loss into personal expansion. Her son's death felt like an end, but the mustard seed quest revealed death's universality, every house touched by it. Accepting impermanence shifted her grief, from raw denial to understanding life's cycle, fostering compassion. Daily, her pain softened into memories, becoming soil for wisdom. The document clarifies, impermanence doesn't dismiss grief but comforts with its movement waves gentle over time. In challenges like bereavement or breakup, accept by noticing daily shifts. Sorrow, intense one morning, lighter with a shared story. This cultivates growth. Isolation becomes empathy. Pain births deeper connections, turning loss into relational maturity. Master Bankei's pre-awakening struggles highlight impermanence in spiritual growth amid daily extremes. His fasting and meditation nearly killed him, viewing enlightenment as a future attainment. Yielding in illness, accepting impermanence, even of life, he found peace present always, obscured by striving. Bankei taught, your Buddha nature amid temporary experiences, notice them flow while remaining unchanged. Daily challenges like self-improvement become growth when accepting this. No need to force change, as impermanence reveals inherent perfection. In habits like procrastination, observe their shifts stronger under stress, weaker with rest, allowing natural evolution without self-flagellation. The three marks link impermanence to growth, suffering from resisting change, tied to non-self-illusion. Zen saying, perfect yet improvable growth dynamic, happening naturally in acceptance. Joshu's longevity. Yielding to moments without past regret or future grasp. Curious what change reveals. Daily, this turns challenges into curiosity. A failed project teaches adaptability. Criticism sparks self-reflection. Practically, embrace impermanence in challenges. Notice environmental shifts, sound, sensation, proving change. Apply to problems, tracking fluctuations. This builds growth. Fears lose solidity, pain transforms, uncertainties excite. The document invites feeling relief, struggles already changing, not burdens to fix now. Your vast awareness holding all, safe in flux. Impermanence isn't enemy but ally, force enabling healing, transformation. Trust it. Daily challenges become paths to profound growth, peace in motion's heart. Embracing change for deeper peace and freedom. Embracing change through the lens of impermanence leads to a profound depth of peace and freedom, where life's constant flux becomes not a source of fear, but a pathway to liberation and authentic living. As the document profoundly teaches, the Buddha's realization of anicca, that nothing stays the same, not pain, joy, circumstances, or self, offers the most liberating insight. The very challenges we resist are already shifting, creating space for growth, healing, and transformation. This embrace doesn't mean passive resignation but active engagement with life's rhythms, approaching each moment with curiosity rather than dread. The transcript invites us to let this truth settle into our bones. Whatever struggle you're facing is already changing, its solidity an illusion. By yielding to this flow, we discover an unshakable peace that external circumstances cannot threaten, and a freedom that arises from trusting change as our teacher rather than our enemy. The ancient Zen masters exemplified this. Peace emerges when we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, allowing life's ever-changing dance to carry us towards serenity. At the core of this deeper peace is the recognition that impermanence dissolves the root of suffering, clinging, and aversion. The document explains that we suffer by freezing happiness in place or pushing pain away as permanent, but embracing change lightens both. Difficulties feel temporary, joys more precious. This paradox fosters freedom. Without desperate attachment, we enjoy fully. Without resistance, pain loses its grip. Consider the merchant with the broken cart. His despair stemmed from viewing loss as fixed, but Master Myoan's pointing to flowing tea and falling cherry blossoms revealed all as transient. Embracing this, he flowed with change, rebuilding not from exhaustion but clarity. The blossom cycle, buds to petals to soil, symbolizes this. Change isn't loss but renewal. In embracing, he found peace amid ruin, freedom to act without fear's burden. The transcript stresses this gift. When we truly embrace impermanence, we become like water, flexible, flowing around obstacles or the sky, holding weather unchanged. This yields deeper peace, safe in flux, whole when disintegrating, free to trust process over control. Emotional freedom arises similarly, as embracing change transforms turbulent feelings into passing visitors. Ijo's anger, once a prison of guilt and explosion, shifted when he embraced its impermanence via Dogen's leaves, green to golden to nourishing soil. No longer fighting waves as permanent, he embraced their rise and fall, discovering sky-like awareness. This brought peace, emotions held without overwhelm, freedom from self-definition. The document notes your awareness experiencing, not the emotion. Embracing change, let storms pass undamaged. For anxiety, Tanaka's torment from clinging to eternal success dissolved in Hangpo's shattered cup. Embracing transience, he appreciated now without fear, gaining freedom to decide clearly. Paradoxically, embracing change, enhanced growth, business thrived, spirit lightened. Daily, embrace by watching emotions shift, anger softer after breath, anxiety easing with presence. This deeper peace, no longer enslaved to feelings' tyranny, free to respond wisely. In loss and grief, embracing change fosters compassionate freedom, turning isolation to connection. Kisa Gotami's raw sorrow carrying her dead son, denying death transformed through the mustard seed quest. Every house knew loss, revealing impermanence's universality. Embracing this cycle death as sunset's companion, she found peace, grief valid yet shared, temporary. The transcript clarifies, impermanence comforts without diminishing, raw pain softens to memories, waves to swells, destruction to compassion's ground. Embracing, she became a student, love deeper, sustainable, holding joy and sorrow naturally. Freedom here, no longer singled by cruelty, free to love without possession. Daily grief, embrace by noticing shifts in tense mornings, calmer evenings knowing it evolves. This peace, heart holds all without breaking, freedom from eternal mourning. Self, perception's chains break too, embracing non-self's change for liberated identity. The document teaches anatta, no fixed self, only aggregates flowing. Clinging to labels causes suffering, embracing fluidity frees. Sari, the angry one, embraced anger as temporary via Buddha's questions, absent in sleep or joy, allowing kindness to emerge. Freedom, multifaceted without trap. Master Ikkyu embodied this. Monk, poet, tavern, goer, embracing roles lightly, free to respond authentically. His poem, no fixed identity, free to become what moments require. Joy in emptiness, peace without defense. Embracing change, we adapt resiliently, admit wrongs unthreatened, evolve without loss, fear, deeper peace, lightness, humor in contradictions, freedom from consistency's prison. The middle way integrates this, embracing change dynamically for balanced freedom. Buddha's sitar, perfect tension yields music, embracing neither extreme, we respond to now. Ling Chi's bamboo, bends with wind, unbroken embracing conditions, finding center. Wang's dilemma resolved embracing actual needs, creative solution emerging. Peace, equanimity amid flux, freedom, mindful effort without strain. Unconditional love, metta, deepens through embracing change, extending freedom boundlessly. Ani Pachon's care for lepers, embracing suffering without return, heart vastened. Sarah's with addicted son, embracing his path without control, fierce compassion yielding boundaries from clarity. Freedom, love without possession, fuller in giving. Time anxiety dissolves, embracing eternal now's change. Past memory, future imagination embracing present, regrets and worries fade. Chen's park bench, embracing pigeon, feeding now, peace amid chaos. Freedom, engage time without enslavement. Ultimate embrace, surrender to impermanence for transcendent peace. Bankei's yield, embracing even death, enlightenment revealed. Joshu's moments, as friends, embracing without wish for different, vitality and flow. Documents invitation, practice letting go, not of love, dreams, but attachment to forms. Embrace, become water, sky, peace in rhythms. This embrace, woven through teachings, settles relief. Pains temporary, fears visitors in awareness. Deeper peace, vast, patient, loving, holding all. Freedom, flow over fight, trust over control, impermanence from fright to ally. Rest here, change enables healing, embrace for peace, sought always. Discovering the illusion of self, the myth of a fixed identity. The Buddhist teaching of non-self, or anatta, challenges the deeply ingrained myth of a fixed, unchanging identity, revealing it as an elaborate illusion that lies at the root of much human suffering. As the document profoundly explains, what we call self is not a solid, permanent entity, but a collection of ever-shifting labels, memories, beliefs, and judgments that we've mistaken for our true essence. This story feels so real and fundamental that questioning it can seem impossible or frightening. Yet the Buddha's radical discovery shows that who we really are is far more spacious, flexible, and free than this narrow narrative. The transcript emphasizes that this doesn't mean you don't exist, of course you do, but that your existence is a dynamic process, not a rigid somebody to defend or improve. By seeing through the myth of fixed identity, we unlock a freedom unimaginable. No longer trapped by self-concepts, we live with genuine authenticity, where suffering dissolves because there's no solid self to suffer. The Buddha called this insight anatman, pointing to the absence of a fixed self in our experience, inviting us to discover that we're the awareness in which all experiences unfold, rather than the experiences themselves. At its foundation, the myth of fixed identity arises from confusing temporary phenomena with permanent reality. The document details how we've built an invisible story about who we are based on past experiences, successes, failures, personality traits, relationships, and beliefs that we defend as if it were etched in stone. This story includes statements like, "I am an angry person," "I am a failure," or "I am someone who can't change," which limit our potential and create suffering when life challenges them. The Buddha realized this illusion under the Bodhi tree. What we call self is actually the 5 aggregates form: body, sensation, perception, mental formations, thoughts and emotions, and consciousness, constantly interacting and changing, with no separate, unchanging entity overseeing them. It's like a symphony. There's music from instruments playing together, but no solid symphony self apart from the melody, harmony, and rhythm. The transcript likens it to a river. What you call you is a flowing stream of thoughts, sensations, emotions, and experiences within spacious awareness. You've been many versions: the 5-year-old child, the 5-year-old teen, the current adult, sharing continuity but remarkably different in thoughts, body, interests, and values. So, which is the real you? Embracing this myth's falsehood brings relief. No fixed self means no need to protect a consistent image, freeing energy for authentic living. This myth perpetuates suffering by fueling greed, hatred, and delusion, as the Buddha taught. Greed arises when we seek to complete or enhance our self-image. Hatred when we perceive threats to it. Delusion in believing a solid self needs defending. The document illustrates how this belief creates a desperate need to maintain or improve the self, leading to compulsion rather than freedom. For example, in relationships, we might swing between giving everything and withdrawing, all to preserve our identity as good or independent. But when we see through the fixed self, these poisons dissolve, preferences remain, but without attachment to outcomes tied to self-worth. You can love deeply without possessing, create passionately without needing validation, give generously without score-keeping, because no separate self gains or loses. This deeper freedom means engaging life from presence, not from the burden of image management. The story of Sari, a young woman in ancient India during the Buddha's time, vividly exposes the myth's grip and its release. Known as the angry one in her village, Sari was defined by her quick temper, with people whispering warnings as she approached. She internalized this deeply, believing anger was her unchangeable nature, exhausted by the conflicts it sparked. Seeking the Buddha, she confessed, "Blessed One, I am cursed with a terrible nature. I am an angry person, and I cannot change. Everyone knows it, expects it, and I'm tired of disappointing them." With compassion, the Buddha asked, "When you were sleeping last night, were you angry?" Confused, Sari admitted, "No, And when laughing with a child yesterday, were you angry then? Again, no, she felt joy. Gently, he continued, if you were truly an angry person, if anger was your fixed nature, how could you experience anything else? How could you sleep peacefully or laugh joyfully? He explained that anger is a temporary visitor in awareness's vast space, a cloud passing through the sky, not the sky itself. This shattered Sari's myth. She had confused a habitual response with permanent identity. Embracing this, she stopped defending her angry self, creating space for patience, kindness, and wisdom, always there but hidden. The transcript notes her life changed completely. By seeing anger as impermanent, not defining, she gained freedom from reputation's weight and self-limitation. This myth extends to all facets, as in the businessman Chen's visit to Master Yunmen. Chen felt like a fraud. At home, seen as devoted yet feeling selfish. In business, honest yet greedy. In community, generous yet impure. I feel like I'm living multiple lies, wearing masks. Which is the real me? Yunmen held a mirror. When it reflects a mountain, is it a mountain mirror? The sky, a sky mirror. Your face, a Chen mirror? No, it's just a mirror reflecting what appears. You are like this, Yunmen said. Pure awareness reflecting roles, not limited to one fixed thing. Chen's suffering came from believing he must be consistent. Embracing multiplicity as facets of humanity, he appreciated his richness. Authenticity became honesty about the spectrum, not rigid consistency, patient yet irritable, generous yet mixed. Freedom, embrace imperfections without defense, turning self-conflict into peace. The Buddha's direct pointing reinforces, in seeing, only seeing, no seer. In thinking, only thinking, no thinker. No separate entity apart from experience, just pure experiencing. This radical truth, your awareness taking temporary form, not a fixed person. Embracing dissolves self, story's prison. No who, but what spacious consciousness. In practice, notice self-defining thoughts. I am someone who always, or that's just how I am. Ask, who witnesses this? Awareness isn't limited by concepts. The document warns of dark night disorientation as old identity dissolves, but what emerges is spacious freedom, unthreatened by circumstance. This myth's unveiling brings compassion. Everyone's navigating limited self-stories. Mistakes aren't inadequacy but temporary arisings. Adaptability surges. Change minds without betrayal. Grow without fear. Lightness follows. Humor in contradictions. Comfort in imperfection. The spiritual path shifts. Not achieving perfect self, but resting in aware presence beyond ego. Meditation reveals this. Observe thoughts, emotions arise, pass no solid you controlling. Freedom, whole without fixing, worthy inherently. Embracing the myth's falsehood settles spaciousness, energy freed from image, monitoring, relief in authentic presence. You're vast for possibilities, flexible for situations, free to love limitlessly. This birthright, space where identities dissolve, awareness where stories flow, foundation for peace, happiness. Stories revealing the fluid nature of being. The fluid nature of being, as revealed through Zen and Buddhist stories in the document, demonstrates that what we perceive as a fixed self is actually a dynamic, ever-changing process, free from the constraints of a solid identity. These narratives serve as direct pointers to the teaching of anatta, or non-self, showing that we are not a static somebody, but a flowing river of experiences within vast awareness. By illustrating how individuals transcend their rigid self-stories, these tales invite us to see our own multifaceted humanity, where roles and emotions arise and pass without defining our essence. The transcript weaves these stories to show that embracing this fluidity brings tremendous freedom. No longer trapped by consistency or defense, we respond authentically to each moment, discovering joy in the emptiness of no fixed self to protect. As the Buddha taught, in the seeing there is only seeing, no seer. These accounts reveal being as pure experiencing, fluid and unbound, transforming suffering into liberation when we stop clinging to illusory permanence. One compelling story is that of Sari, a young woman in ancient India during the Buddha's time, whose life was dominated by her reputation as the angry one. Throughout her village, people whispered warnings when she approached, and Sari herself had fully identified with this label, believing her quick temper was an unchangeable core of her nature. This fixed self-view created constant conflict and exhaustion, as every outburst reinforced her isolation and self-loathing. Desperate for change, she sought the Buddha, her voice tight with frustration. "Blessed One, I am cursed with a terrible nature. I am an angry person, and I cannot change this about myself. Everyone knows it, everyone expects it, and I'm tired of disappointing people when I try to be different." The Buddha, with infinite compassion, posed a simple question. "Tell me, when you were sleeping last night, were you angry?" Sari looked confused and admitted, "No, of course not. I was asleep." He continued, "And when you were laughing with a child yesterday, I saw you playing with your neighbor's daughter. Were you angry then?" Quietly, she replied, "No, I felt joy." Gently, the Buddha explained, "Then tell me, if you were truly an angry person, if anger was your fixed nature, how could you ever experience anything else? How could you sleep peacefully, laugh joyfully, or even feel curiosity about changing? What you call your anger is actually a temporary visitor in the vast space of your awareness, a cloud passing through the sky, not the sky itself." This conversation shattered Sari's illusion of a fixed self. She had been confusing a habitual, conditioned response with an immutable identity. By recognizing anger as fluid arising under certain conditions and dissolving in others, she created space for other qualities to emerge: patience, kindness, and wisdom that had always been present but hidden beneath her rigid self-image. The document notes that this insight changed Sari's life completely. She stopped defending her angry role, allowing her fluid nature to express itself more fully, leading to genuine connections and inner peace. This fluidity is further revealed in the unconventional life of Master Ikkyu, a Zen monk in 15th century Japan, famous for defying expectations of monastic behavior. Unlike other monks who maintained serious, dignified personas to uphold a fixed spiritual identity, Ikkyu was often found drinking sake in taverns, writing playful poetry, or engaging in activities that shocked the religious establishment. When criticized for his inconsistent conduct, Ikkyu would smile and ask, "Which Ikkyu are you upset with? The monk, the poet, the friend, the student? I am all of these, and none of them." people were baffled by how he could embody such varied roles without hypocrisy, but Ikkyu had discovered the profound truth of non-self. Without a fixed identity to cling to, he was free to respond authentically to each moment's demands. In the temple, he was fully present as a monk; in the tavern, as a companion; in his poetry, as an artist. He wore these roles lightly, like costumes that could be donned or discarded as needed, without attachment to any single one defining him. One of his most famous poems captures this fluid essence. Having nothing, nothing can be lost. Having no fixed identity, I am free to become anything the moment requires. What joy there is in this emptiness! What peace in having no self to defend! The transcript highlights that Ikkyu's way wasn't fake, but a demonstration of living without the prison of self-definition. His story reveals being as adaptable and responsive, where fluidity allows for richness rather than contradiction, fostering a peace that comes from embracing multiplicity without the need for consistency. Another illuminating tale is that of the wealthy merchant Chen and master Yunmen in ancient China, where the fluid nature of being is mirrored in everyday self-perception. Chen was tormented by feeling like a fraud across his life's roles. At home, his family saw him as a devoted father and husband, but inwardly he felt impatient and selfish. In business, respected as honest, yet he harbored greedy thoughts. In the community, known as generous, but his motivations weren't always pure. Confiding in Yunmen, he said, "Master, I feel like I'm living multiple lives, wearing different masks for different people. Which one is the real me?" Yunmen listened patiently, then picked up a mirror. "Tell me, when this mirror reflects the mountain, is it a mountain mirror? When it reflects the sky, is it a sky mirror? When it reflects your face, is it a Chen mirror?" Chen, beginning to understand, replied, "No, master. It's just a mirror reflecting whatever appears before it." Yunmen smiled. "Exactly. You are like this mirror, pure awareness reflecting different experiences, different roles, different aspects of being human. The problem isn't that you have multiple facets. The problem is that you believe you must be only one fixed thing." He continued that a mountain doesn't cease being a mountain when clouds pass, and Chen's true nature isn't limited by temporary reflections. The mirror remains unstained by what it shows, just as awareness holds all without being defined. This teaching transformed Chen. He stopped striving for a consistent personality and embraced his multifaceted humanity, acknowledging impatience while being patient, mixed motives while giving generously. Authenticity shifted from rigid consistency to honest expression of his full spectrum, bringing peace and freedom from internal conflict. The fluid nature extends to creative expression in the story of the famous actor Li Wei in ancient China, renowned for portraying any character with utter authenticity, king or peasant, villain or hero. Audiences believed his performances completely, and when asked his secret, Li Wei smiled. "I have no fixed character of my own, so I can become anyone the story requires." A young actor, frustrated by his own limitations, approached, "Master, I want to be great like you, but I keep getting trapped in my own personality. How can I disappear into roles?" Li Wei replied, "First, discover there is no fixed personality to get trapped in. What you call your personality is just another character you've played so long you've forgotten it's a role. the young man asked. "But if I'm not my personality, then who am I?" Laughing gently, Li Wei said, "You are the one who can play any role because you are not limited by any role. You are the awareness that can witness kings and beggars, heroes and villains, joy and sorrow without being defined by them. This is why great acting and great wisdom are the same. Both require full presence without identity's trap. This reveals being as fluid capacity for expression, free from self-imposed boundaries." These stories Sari's release from anger's label, Ikkyu's role fluidity, Chen's mirror-like awareness, Li Wei's performative freedom collectively unveil non-self's essence, being as dynamic, undefined flow. The document ties them to Buddha's aggregates, no separate self, just changing processes like symphony without musician. Embracing this fluidity dissolves defense, bringing peace in emptiness, joy in multiplicity. No fixed self means freedom to evolve, love without limitation, live authentically, vast awareness holding all, unchanged. Freedom from self-stories and limitations. The freedom that emerges from recognizing the illusion of self-stories and their inherent limitations is one of the most profound gifts of Buddhist teaching, allowing us to live unbound by the narrow narratives we've constructed about who we are. As the document elucidates, these self-stories, collections of labels, memories, beliefs, and judgments, act as invisible prisons, confining us to fixed roles that generate suffering through constant defense and improvement efforts. The Buddha's insight into anatta, or non-self, reveals that there is no permanent, unchanging entity to be found. Instead, what we call self is a fluid process of the 5 aggregates form: sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness interacting without a central controller. This realization doesn't erase our experiences, but liberates us from identifying with them, dissolving the desperate need to maintain a consistent image. The transcript emphasizes that when we see through this illusion, remarkable shifts occur. Compassion toward ourselves and others deepens, adaptability and resilience flourish, and a sense of lightness and humor infuses life. No longer taking our self-stories seriously, we embrace our perfectly imperfect humanity, finding freedom in the spacious awareness that holds all contradictions without being limited by them. Self-stories impose limitations by convincing us that temporary experiences define our worth and potential, creating a cycle of compulsion and dissatisfaction. The document explains that we've accumulated these narratives from past successes, failures, personality traits, relationships, and societal expectations, treating them like unchangeable facts. Statements like, "I am someone who always fails," or "I am not the kind of person who succeeds," become self-fulfilling prophecies, restricting growth and amplifying suffering. The Buddha taught that this belief in a fixed self fuels the 3 fundamental forms of suffering: greed, seeking to enhance the self; hatred, pushing away threats to it; and delusion, the illusion of a solid self needing protection. When we cling to these stories, we engage life from fear rather than presence, desperately accumulating achievements for validation or avoiding risks to preserve our image. But recognizing their impermanence frees us. Self-stories are just mental formations, arising and passing in awareness, not the awareness itself. This shift eliminates the compulsion. We can have goals and preferences without tying our well-being to them, loving deeply without possession, and creating passionately without attachment to outcomes. The story of Sari powerfully illustrates breaking free from such limitations. Labeled the Angry One by her village and herself, Sari's self-story confined her to a life of conflict and isolation, believing her temper was an immutable curse. Exhausted, she approached the Buddha. "I am an angry person and cannot change." Through gentle questioning highlighting moments of peace in sleep or joy with a child, the Buddha revealed anger as a temporary visitor, not her fixed nature. This pierced her illusion. Confusing a habit with identity had blocked other qualities. Freed from defending this story, patience and kindness emerged, transforming her relationships and inner world. The document notes that Sari's freedom came from seeing her multifaceted being, no longer limited by a single label. In daily life, this applies to our own stories. Notice how "I am shy" limits social interactions, but recognizing it as fluid, absent in comfortable settings, opens freedom to engage authentically without the weight of consistency. Master Ikkyu's life further reveals freedom from self-imposed limitations through embracing fluidity. Defying monastic norms by frequenting taverns and writing poetry, Ikkyu faced criticism for inconsistency. Yet, he responded, "Which Ikkyu are you upset with? I am all and none." His fluid nature allowed full presence in each role, monk in temple, friend in tavern, without attachment to a fixed spiritual image. His poem celebrates this. "Having no fixed identity, I am free to become anything the moment requires. What joy in this emptiness." The transcript highlights that Ikkyu's approach wasn't hypocritical but wise. Without a self-story to defend, he lived unbounded, turning potential limitations, like societal expectations, into expansive freedom. This teaches us to hold our stories lightly, like costumes. "I am organized" needn't limit spontaneity. Embracing both fosters balance without conflict. The merchant Chen's encounter with Yunmen exposes how self-stories create internal fraudulence and limitation. Feeling torn between roles, devoted yet selfish, honest yet greedy, Chen asked, "Which is the real me?" Yunmen's mirror analogy showed him as pure awareness reflecting facets, unstained by them. Freed from needing one fixed self, Chen embraced his spectrum, patient with irritation, generous with mixed motives. This dissolved limitations. No longer judging inconsistencies, he lived authentically, turning self-doubt into wholeness. The document stresses this authenticity as honesty about experiences, not rigid perfection, allowing growth without threat. Sarah's modern story applies this to depression and life crises, post-divorce and job loss. Her self-story, "I am broken, a failure," consumed her. Noticing flowers' changes in her garden, she realized depression as passing weather in her inner sky, real but not defining. Freed from identifying as depressed, she acknowledged it while connecting to witnessing awareness. This brought freedom. Respond wisely to circumstances, not react from limitation. The transcript notes this changed her relationship to problems. Feels sad without becoming sadness, scared without fear's trap. Freedom manifests in compassion, adaptability, and lightness. Compassion. See others' stories as limited. Like yours, traffic. Cut as stressed, not bad. Your mistakes. Temporary, not inadequacy. Adaptability. Admit wrongs unthreatened, Change without betrayal, growth as capacity, not fixed point. Lightness, humor in absurdities, comfort in imperfection, path about embracing imperfect perfection. The Buddha taught realization through experience, not analysis. Meditation observes thoughts. Emotions flow without solid you. Dark night may arise as old stories dissolve, but emerging is spacious presence, unthreatenable. This freedom from self-stories, as document weaves, invites noticing defining thoughts. Ask who witnesses, awareness unlimited by concepts, energy freed from monitoring, relief in presence. Vast for possibilities, flexible for situations, free for limitless love. Birthright. Space of identities rise, fall, awareness of stories come, go, peace passing understanding. Applying non-self to relationships and struggles. The application of non-self, anatta, to relationships and struggles transforms how we navigate interpersonal dynamics and personal challenges, freeing us from the limitations imposed by fixed identities and allowing for deeper connection and resilience. As the document teaches, the illusion of a solid self creates suffering by making us defensive, needy, or controlling in relationships, and trapped in reactive patterns during struggles. Recognizing that there is no permanent I to defend, only fluid aggregates of form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, we shift from compulsion to presence, engaging with others and difficulties from spacious awareness rather than ego-driven stories. This doesn't mean becoming detached or indifferent, but embracing our multifaceted humanity, where authenticity arises from honesty about the full spectrum of experiences without needing to justify or protect a consistent image. The transcript emphasizes that applying non-self dissolves greed, hatred, and delusion in interactions. No longer seeking to complete our self-image through others or perceiving them as threats, we love without possession, face struggles without personalizing them, and grow through fluidity rather than force. In relationships, this fosters intimacy based on mutual freedom. In struggles, it turns overwhelm into opportunity, as we're no longer limited by who we think we are. In relationships, the myth of fixed self often manifests as attachment disguised as love, leading to conflict and disappointment when others don't fit our narrative. The document illustrates this through the couple David and Maria, married 15 years and on the verge of divorce. Their bond had become a battleground of expectations. David wanted Maria more organized and decisive to match his responsible self-story. Maria sought David's emotional expressiveness to fulfill her need for romantic connection. Both believed happiness depended on changing the other, reinforcing their fixed identities. I am the practical one, or I am the passionate one, and creating resentment. At a Buddhist retreat, the monk asked, "Which of you is willing to love the person beside you exactly as they are, without needing them to be different?" Protests arose. Accepting meant no growth. Chaos would ensue. But the monk pointed out their conditional love had failed for years, fostering judgment and defensiveness. Applying non-self, they distinguished love from attachment. Love wishes happiness freely. Attachment demands roles for security. Embracing fluidity, no fixed, perfect partner self, they relaxed into authenticity. David, unpressured, expressed warmth organically. Maria, uncriticized, embraced structure joyfully. Freedom emerged. Intimacy as choice between free beings, not needy fulfillment. The transcript notes this deepened their bond safety and acceptance, spurred natural growth, energy for change when not defending stories. This applies broadly. In family dynamics, non-self frees from roles like the responsible child or the disappointing one. Sari's story shows, trapped as angry one, her relationships suffered isolation. Buddha's revelation, anger temporary, not fixed, allowed fluidity, fostering connections through emerging kindness. Struggles in friendships, like feeling unseen, stem from self-stories. I am unlovable. Non-self reveals this as passing perception, freeing compassionate response over withdrawal. The Dalai Lama's metta toward oppressors exemplifies, embracing their confused fluidity, not fixed evil, cultivates peace without condoning harm. Struggles, too, transform when non-self is applied, shifting from personal failure to witnessed experiences. Sarah's post-divorce depression and job loss trapped her in, I am broken, can't handle life. A garden walk revealed emotions as changing weather, in awareness's sky temporary, not defining. Embracing non-self, she felt sad without becoming sadness, responding wisely. Address issues from clarity, not identification. The document stresses this. Struggles aren't evidence of inadequacy, but arisings in vast being. Freedom, energy for solutions, not self-blame. In work struggles, like draining jobs, fixed self, I am a failure if I quit, limits options. Applying non-self, role as employee fluid, not essence explore changes without identity threat. Tanaka's anxiety, self-story successful, only if permanent caused torment. Hangpo's cup shattered this, embracing fluidity for decisions from presence. Growth, thrive without fear. Emotional struggles like anger benefit. Ijo's rage felt fixed failure. Dogen's leaves showed fluidity, anger passing wave. Non-self-application. Witness without ownership. Freedom from cycles. Space for wisdom. Relational struggles with difficult people. Non-self sees their behavior as temporary formations, not threats to yourself. Chen's fraudulence, mirror analogy, freed him from fixed good self, embracing facets for honest interactions. Freedom, oppose harm compassionately, as Dalai Lama with enemies teaches for unconditional love. Boundaries in struggles. Non-self enables fierce compassion, like Sarah's with her son, love without enabling, from clarity not need. Freedom, say no without guilt, yes without attachment. Daily application. Notice self-stories in conflicts. I am right, they wrong. Ask who witnesses. Awareness unbound by stories allows empathetic response. Struggles. Observe thoughts. Emotions flow, no fixed sufferer. 3 poisons dissolve. Greed for approval, hatred from threats, delusion of self. Engage from freedom. Care deeply unattached. Modern like Maria's caregiving. Extremes of control, withdrawal, non-self, middle way present fluidly, honoring rhythms without fixed caretaker identity, deeper connections, sustainable effort. This application, per document, invites practicing, catch defining statements, question witness. Freedom, compassionate, adaptable, light vast for possibilities, flexible for struggles, free for love. No masks, just presence, heart of genuine peace. Resting in awareness beyond the ego. Resting in awareness beyond the ego represents the ultimate invitation of the non-self teaching, where we discover our true nature as the spacious, unchanging presence that witnesses all experiences without being defined or limited by them. As the document profoundly teaches, the Buddha's insight into anatta reveals that the ego, our collection of self-stories, identifications, and defenses, is not who we are, but a temporary construct, obscuring the vast awareness that holds everything. This resting isn't about achieving a special state or eliminating thoughts and emotions. It's about recognizing that you are already the aware space in which all arises and passes, free from the ego's burdens of improvement, defense, or control. The transcript emphasizes that this awareness is your fundamental essence, vast enough to contain storms, unchanged by their passing, like the sky that remains serene regardless of weather. By resting here, we transcend the ego's illusions, finding a peace that no external circumstance can disturb, and a freedom that allows us to engage life fully without compulsion. The Buddha taught that true security comes not from solidifying the self, but from resting in the awareness that experiences its fluidity, where seeing, hearing, and thinking occur without a separate seer, hearer, or thinker. The ego thrives on the myth of separation, creating a sense of a fixed I that must be protected, enhanced, or fixed, leading to endless striving and suffering. The document explains that this ego arises from identifying with the five aggregates: body, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness as a permanent entity. But in reality, these are fluid processes, with no central self orchestrating them. Resting beyond the ego means shifting from being caught in these aggregates to abiding as the awareness that witnesses them. This isn't intellectual, it's experiential, cultivated through practices like meditation, where we observe thoughts and feelings arise and dissolve on their own. The transcript invites direct inquiry. You are not your thoughts, because you can observe your thoughts. You are not your emotions, because you can witness your emotions. You are not your body, because you can be aware of your body. You are not your story, because you can see your story as just another object appearing in consciousness. This recognition brings tremendous relief. No need to fix or become different to be whole, as wholeness is inherent in awareness itself. The ego's voice demanding perfection or fearing inadequacy loses power when seen as a passing mental formation, not the truth of being. Stories in the document vividly illustrate this resting. Sari's transformation from the angry one began when the Buddha helped her see anger as a temporary cloud in awareness's sky. Resting beyond her ego story, she no longer defended the fixed identity, allowing awareness to hold her full spectrum: joy, peace, curiosity, without limitation. This rest freed her from exhaustion, revealing ego as the source of her confinement. Similarly, Master Ikkyu's fluid life, monk, poet, reveler, embodied resting in awareness. No fixed self to uphold, he responded to moments from presence, his poem celebrating peace in having no self to defend. Beyond ego's rigidity, he found joy in emptiness, where awareness expressed freely without contradiction. The transcript notes Ikkyu's wisdom mirrored great acting, disappearing into roles by recognizing no inherent character, just awareness witnessing. Chen's encounter with Yunmen further shows resting beyond ego in relational struggles, feeling fraudulent in his roles, devoted yet selfish, generous yet impure. Chen's ego demanded a singular, real me. Yunmen's mirror taught resting as pure reflection, awareness unstained by facets. Beyond ego's need for consistency, Chen rested in this, embracing imperfections without judgment. Freedom followed. Authentic engagement, peace from dissolved internal lies. The document ties this to Buddha's aggregates, no self apart from processes, like symphony without separate musician. Resting here, struggles lose personal sting, seen as arisings in awareness, not attacks on me. Sarah's depression story applies this to modern crises. Post, losses, her ego, story, I am broken, consumed her. Garden flowers changes revealed ego as illusion. Depression passing clouds in awareness's sky. Resting beyond identification, she witnessed without becoming, responding from clarity. Beyond ego, peace emerged, whole amid pain, free to act without reaction. Master Bankei's awakening exemplifies ultimate rest. Extreme practices built egos striving for future enlightenment. Near-death surrender, resting beyond effort, revealed awareness, always present, obscured by grasping. He taught, you are already perfect. Don't fight temporary experiences, just notice they flow while you remain. This rest is effortless. Awareness lacking nothing, ego's problem belief dissolved. Freedom, no improvement needed, peace in now. The three poisons, greed, hatred, delusion, fade in this rest. No self to enhance, threaten, or delude. Engage from freedom. Hungry, eat. Sad, cry without experiences defining you. Master Huangbo put it, your everyday mind is the way. Resting beyond ego, daily life becomes expression of Buddha nature. Practices cultivate this. Meditation, just sit, observe, flow without control. Notice ego, stories. Who aware of this thought? Awareness beyond them. Document warns of dark night disorientation as ego dissolves, but promises spacious presence, unthreatenable. In relationships, rest fosters true intimacy. Beyond ego, needs, love, freely. David, Maria's conditional expectations built ego walls. Resting in non-self, they accepted fluidity, deepening bond without possession. Struggles transform. Anxiety, anger as witnessed waves, not ego, flaws. Ego rested as sky, holding anger without change. Freedom, respond compassionately, growth natural. Resting beyond ego brings compassion. Others' actions from their stories, not against yours. Adaptability, evolve without betrayal. Lightness, humor in absurdities, comfort in imperfection. Buddha taught direct experience. Rest in presence, witnessing all, beyond thinking's illusion. This your nature, vast, open, unchanging, free. Document invites noticing, feels spaciousness without self-defense, relief in presence. Your awareness, love without reason, peace passing understanding. Rest here, ego's chains broken, true freedom in being. Navigating life with the middle way. Avoiding extremes for balanced wisdom. The middle way, as taught by the Buddha and embodied in Zen wisdom, offers a path of balanced wisdom by avoiding the extremes of indulgence and self-denial, leading to a life of clarity, peace, and effective responsiveness. In the document, this teaching is presented as the third way through the storm of modern life, neither pushing forcefully against challenges nor retreating into avoidance, but moving gracefully between opposites like a skilled sailor, adjusting sails to the wind. The Buddha discovered this profound truth after 6 years of extreme asceticism, realizing that neither over-tightening nor loosening the strings of practice produced harmony. Only the perfect tension allowed beautiful music to emerge. This isn't about rigid moderation but dynamic balance, where wisdom arises from mindful awareness of what each situation requires, free from the traps of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. By avoiding extremes, we cultivate a responsive engagement with life that dissolves unnecessary suffering, turning overwhelm into sustainable action and inner calm. The transcript stresses that in our polarized world bombarded by messages of intense optimization or complete surrender, the middle way provides practical guidance for work, relationships, and self-care, where balanced wisdom means honoring rhythms without force, leading to unshakable peace even in chaos. Extremes create discord because they stem from misunderstanding life's dynamic nature, pulling us into reactive patterns that amplify suffering. The document details how we've tried both ends, pushing harder in ambition, leading to burnout, or numbing out to escape, resulting in stagnation. The Buddha's own journey exemplifies this. As Prince Siddhartha, he first lived in luxury with strings too loose, indulging pleasures without purpose, finding no lasting fulfillment. Then, for 6 years, he practiced severe self-mortification fasting until skeletal, meditating to exhaustion, tightening the strings until they nearly snapped, bringing physical and mental breakdown without enlightenment. Near death by a river, he overheard a music teacher instructing on sitar tuning. If you tighten the strings too much, they will snap and produce no music. If you leave them too loose, they will produce only noise. But when the tension is just right, neither too tight nor too loose, the most beautiful music can emerge. This revelation struck Siddhartha. His extremes had created discord, not wisdom. Accepting food from village girl Sujata, breaking his fast and shocking companions, he nourished body and mind without indulgence, sitting under the Bodhi tree in balanced alertness. That night, he achieved awakening, discovering the middle way as the path to truth. The transcript explains, this isn't historical anecdote but practical for us. Extremes in work, intense drive to burnout, or relationships, total giving to withdrawal, mirror Siddhartha's, unsustainable and unfruitful. Avoiding them means pausing in overwhelm to sense what's needed, neither force nor flight, but wise adjustment. Balanced wisdom arises from this avoidance, cultivated through mindfulness, right effort, and equanimity, as the Buddha outlined. Mindfulness sees reality clearly, without extreme stories of catastrophe or denial. Right effort engages fully without straining, like perfectly tuned strings. Equanimity maintains center whether smooth or stormy. The document warns that extremes are fueled by the 3 traps: attachment, clinging tightly, over-tightening; aversion, pushing away, creating conflict; and ignorance, unconscious patterns ignoring present. Avoiding these, we respond from presence. In a crisis, neither reckless, bold, nor cowardly safe, but what conditions require. This balance isn't fixed but fluid, like learning to dance with life, leaning in when called, pulling back when wise. Master Linki's teaching with the bamboo exemplifies avoiding extremes for wisdom. A agitated merchant, Wang, sought advice on his failing business. Risk everything or play safe? Advisors split, paralyzing him. Lingqi pointed to swaying bamboo. Is this bamboo being bold or cautious? Confused, Wang said. It's just moving with the wind. Exactly, Lingqi replied. Gently in light breezes, deeply and strong, neither fighting nor abandoning nature, unbroken. Wang learned to avoid bold, cautious extremes, quieting mind to feel actual needs. After days, a creative solution emerged, neither gamble nor retreat, saving and thriving his business. The transcript highlights this. Bamboo's wisdom is responsive, not rigid. Avoiding extremes prevents breakage, fostering strength through harmony. In self-care, Maria's story applies this. As architect, she swung between 18-hour workdays and exhaustive crashes. Relationships' intense connection to withdrawal. Her mother's Alzheimer's intensified extremes, first controlling care to burnout, then distancing emotionally. Neither served. Learning middle way at a Zen center, she avoided both, present to daily needs hours with mother when energized, brief visits when limited. Avoiding judgment for variations, she honored rhythms with compassion. This balanced wisdom transformed her, work sustainable, relationships deeper, engaging fully without overwhelm or escape. The middle way counters cultural extremes. Social media's outrage, positivity, self-help's optimization, surrender, politics polarization. Buddha said, avoid indulgence and self-mortification, neither leads to wisdom. In modern terms, avoid constant improvement or growth abandonment. Engage with gentle perseverance for change. Master Joshu's response to a confused monk reinforces extremes in detachment, engagement, discipline, spontaneity. Joshu's walking stick, best used as needed support, aid, or carried lightly. I engage when called, rest when needed, avoiding one-sidedness for appropriate response. This wisdom, life as fluid, extremes ignored for presence call. Dogen's just sitting avoids dramatic breakthroughs or dullness. Practice as enlightenment now, beyond becoming. For driven, emphasize being. For passive, effort. Balanced wisdom calibrates to tendencies. Ryokan's solitude connection balance. Retreat to discover offering. Engage to share fullness, neither driven by need. Avoiding isolation, dependency extremes, harmony in relationships. Applying daily, notice extremes over, under, responsible, perfectionism, giving up. Bring awareness without judgment, experiment with center. Buddha, better than 1,000 hollow words, one bringing peace. Middle way, that word. Lived responsiveness for wisdom. Avoiding extremes cultivates balanced wisdom, mindful seeing, effortless engaging, equanimous centering. Documents essence, not perfect balance, but dynamic sailing through life's winds, peace in responsiveness. The Buddha's discovery and practical applications. The Buddha's discovery of the middle way marks a pivotal moment in spiritual history, offering a practical framework for living that avoids the pitfalls of extremes and leads to enlightenment through balanced, responsive wisdom. As detailed in the document, this path emerged from Siddhartha's own experiences of swinging between luxury and asceticism, realizing that neither led to true understanding or peace. For 6 years before his awakening, Prince Siddhartha practiced extreme forms of self-discipline, fasting until his body was mere skin and bones, meditating until near collapse, and enduring torturous practices that left his 5 companions in awe of his dedication. He believed enlightenment required complete rejection of comfort and pleasure, tightening the strings of his practice to the breaking point. Yet, despite this self-torture, he was no closer to freedom. His body broken, mind clouded by weakness, spirit crushed by futility. One day, barely conscious from hunger by a river, he overheard a music teacher instructing a student on tuning a sitar. If you tighten the strings too much, they will snap and produce no music. If you leave them too loose, they will produce only noise. But when the tension is just right, neither too tight nor too loose, the most beautiful music can emerge. In that instant, Siddhartha understood. His ascetic extremes had created harsh discord, just as his earlier indulgent life in the palace had been aimless noise. Neither path harmonized with truth. That day, accepting food from village girl Sujata, breaking his fast and shocking his companions, who thought he'd abandoned his quest, he found the middle way. Nourishment without excess, alertness without strain. Sitting under the Bodhi tree that evening, he achieved enlightenment, the middle way revealing as the noble path to ending suffering. This discovery isn't abstract philosophy, but a practical antidote to the extremes plaguing daily life, as the transcript applies it to modern challenges like work burnout, relationship conflicts, and self-care imbalances. The middle way teaches dynamic responsiveness, adjusting to situations like a sailor with winds rather than rigid rules. In work, for instance, many swing between intense productivity, over-tightening, and complete disengagement, too loose, leading to exhaustion or unfulfillment. The Buddha's sitar analogy offers wisdom. Find the tension where effort produces harmony, engaging fully without forcing outcomes. Practically, when feeling overwhelmed by deadlines, pause and ask, what does this moment need? It might be ruthless prioritization, focusing on essentials over urgents, or a conscious break for restoration, not escape. This avoids the extremes of pushing through at all costs, risking snap, or avoiding responsibilities, creating noise, fostering sustainable progress. The document stresses that this responsiveness comes from mindfulness, seeing clearly without stories of failure or perfection. In relationships, the middle way's practical application transforms extremes of enmeshment and detachment into healthy, present connection. Consider Maria, the architect whose life was marked by swings, 18-hour workdays to crashes, intense bonding to emotional withdrawal. Her mother's Alzheimer's diagnosis amplified this. First, extreme control, researching every treatment, managing all care to burnout and resentment. Then, swinging to distance, leaving it to professionals. Neither brought peace or helped her mother. Through Buddhist meditation at a Zen center, Maria learned the middle way. Avoiding fixation on doing more or doing less, she became present to daily rhythms. Some days, energy allowed hours with her mother. Others, only brief calls. Without judging variations or forcing consistency, she honored limitations with compassion for both. This balanced approach, neither over-responsible nor under-responsible, deepened her relationships. Full engagement when possible, rest when needed, turning extremes into harmony. The transcript notes this mirrored the Buddha's post-discovery. Nourished but not indulged, he meditated from clarity. In partnerships, like David and Maria's near divorce from mutual expectations, the middle way asked loving without needing change, avoiding control or abandonment, fostering growth through acceptance. Self-care and inner growth benefit immensely from this discovery's applications, avoiding extremes of strict discipline, self-mortification, and total abandonment, indulgence. The Buddha warned both hinder wisdom. Instead, gentle perseverance creates lasting change. Master Dogen's just sitting embodies this, neither striving for breakthroughs nor spacing in dullness, but present meditation where practice is enlightenment. For driven students chasing states, Dogen emphasized being over-becoming. For lazy ones, sincere effort. Practically, in habits like exercise or meditation, avoid all or nothing. If extreme routines lead to quitting, apply middle way, consistent but flexible, adjusting to energy without guilt. The document applies to spiritual ambition, like Bankei's near-fatal extremes, surrendering extremes. He rested in awareness, teaching perfection already present. Freedom, growth natural, without ego's force. Broader applications address cultural extremes. Social media's outrage, positivity, self-help's optimization, surrender, politics division, Buddha's words. Avoid indulgence and self-mortification. Practically, in information overload, middle way means discerning consumption, neither binge nor ignore, but mindful engagement for clarity. In uncertainty, like Wang's business dilemma, risk safe. Lingqi's bamboo taught avoiding bold, cautious, responding to wind's reality. After quieting mind, Wang found creative middle business thrived from wisdom, not fear, greed. Joshu's longevity at 120 stemmed from middle way. Neither detach completely nor cling desperately, engage, rest as needed. His stick, used for support, aid, carried lightly, avoiding heavy lean or ground avoidance. Practical, in solitude, connection, like Ryokan retreat to offer, engage to share, avoiding isolation, dependency. The three essential qualities amplify applications: mindfulness, clear seeing without extremes; right effort, full without strain; equanimity, centered in flux. In stress, avoid, work harder; escape, breathe; discern, needs help; prioritize, break. This cultivates wisdom, respond consciously over, react habitually. Buddha's discovery, per document, requires no perfection dynamic, meeting where you are. Siddhartha's nourishment led to awakening, ours to peace in chaos. Practical, notice tendencies. Perfectionism, giving up. Bring awareness, experiment, center. Better one peaceful word than thousand hollow middle way. That word, lived for wisdom. This discovery's applications: work sustainable, relationships intimate, growth natural. Avoid extremes. Harmony emerges, peace in responsiveness, freedom in balance. Responding dynamically to life's challenges. Responding dynamically to life's challenges is the essence of the middle way, where we avoid rigid extremes and instead adapt with wisdom, mindfulness, and equanimity to whatever arises in the moment. As the document teaches, this approach isn't about finding a static balance point impossible in a changing world, but learning to move fluidly between opposites, like a skilled sailor who adjusts sails to shifting winds rather than fighting or surrendering to them. The Buddha's discovery of the middle way came from recognizing that extremes of indulgence and self-denial lead to discord, while dynamic responsiveness harmonizes with life's rhythms, dissolving suffering and fostering clarity. In practical terms, this means pausing amid challenges to sense what the situation truly requires, neither overexertion nor avoidance, but a calibrated action born from presence. The transcript emphasizes that our modern storms, endless notifications, competing demands, pressure to achieve pull us into reactive swings, but dynamic response offers a third path, through the center, where challenges become opportunities for growth rather than sources of overwhelm. By cultivating this skill, we navigate work, relationships, and inner turmoil with grace, turning potential breakdowns into breakthroughs of insight and peace. Dynamic response begins with awareness of our tendencies toward extremes, which the Buddha identified as rooted in attachment, clinging too tightly, aversion, pushing too hard away, and ignorance, unconscious habits. The document illustrates how these create unnecessary conflict. In a crisis, attachment might drive us to control every detail, leading to burnout. Aversion to withdraw completely, causing stagnation. Ignorance to repeat old patterns without seeing the present. Avoiding these, we respond from what is actually happening, as Master Lingxi taught the merchant Wang. Wang was paralyzed by his failing business. Take a huge risk or play it safe. Advisors polarized him, but Lingxi pointed to swaying bamboo. Is this bamboo being bold or cautious? It's just responding to the wind lightly in gentle breezes, deeply in storms, standing straight in calm. The bamboo doesn't fight conditions or abandon its nature. It bends appropriately, never breaking. Wang spent days quieting his mind, avoiding extreme strategies, and felt the situation's true needs. A creative solution emerged, neither gamble nor retreat, but a prudent yet courageous path that saved his business. This dynamic response, per the transcript, came from presence over fear. Avoiding bold, cautious dichotomy, he acted from clarity, thriving as a result. In emotional challenges like anger or anxiety, dynamic response means observing the feeling's rhythm without swinging to suppression or explosion. The young monk Ijo's story applies here. His rage led to outbursts, then guilt, an extreme cycle of reaction and self-punishment. Master Dogen didn't advise extreme discipline or indulgence, but handed him a broom amid fallen leaves. Are these the same as weeks ago? They've changed and will change again. Ijo learned to respond dynamically to anger, witness its rise and fall like a wave, neither fighting aversion nor indulging attachment. This middle response transformed him. Resting as the sky, he held storms equanimously, responding with wisdom over reactivity. Practically, in daily anxiety like Tanaka's fear of loss, Hangpo shattered the cup to show dynamic embrace of impermanence, neither clinging eternally nor denying value. Tanaka responded by appreciating success fluidly, decisions from calm over compulsion. The document notes, anxiety has peaks, valleys, dynamically watch without force, turning challenge to insight. Relational challenges benefit from this. Avoid extremes of people, pleasing, over, giving, or isolation, withdrawal. Maria's caregiving for her Alzheimer's afflicted mother swung between total control, researching, managing all, to emotional distance, delegating fully. Neither helped. Zen teachings guided dynamic response present to daily capacities. Long visits when energized, short when depleted, without self-judgment. This avoided burnout, neglect, fostering compassion for both. In partnerships, David, Maria's expectations created extremes, demand, change, or give up. The monk's question, love as is, prompted dynamic acceptance, respond to partner's fluidity without fixed roles. Intimacy deepened, growth natural. Work, ambition challenges, avoid overdrive. Siddhartha's asceticism, or laziness, palace indulgence. Bankei's extremes nearly killed him. Surrender dynamically revealed peace present. Teach, respond to now. Effort when meaningful, rest when wise. Practically, in deadlines. Avoid push, avoid. Prioritize mindfully, break restoratively. Broader struggles like time, anxiety, extremes of future, worry, past, regret. Chen's bench with pigeon feeder, dynamically present to now, peace amid chaos. Respond, return to breath, avoiding mental time. Ryokan's solitude, connection, dynamically retreat for offering, engage for sharing, avoid need-driven extremes. Dogen's just sitting, dynamically calibrated being for driven, effort for passive, respond to tendencies for harmony. Joshu's stick, dynamically used, support, aid, carried, avoid, heavy, untouched. Three qualities enable. Mindfulness, see without extremes, right effort, engage, tuned, equanimity, center, fluidly, daily, notice, pulls, over, under, responsible, pause, ask, needs, avoid judgment, experiment response. Buddha's discovery, dynamic for enlightenment, avoid indulgence, mortification, respond causes, conditions, document, not rulebook, but mindful attention, challenges met wisely, peace in flow. This dynamic response challenges allies, wisdom from presence, avoid extremes, life dances, peace responsive, freedom adaptive. Cultivating mindfulness, effort, and equanimity. Cultivating mindfulness, right effort, and equanimity forms the foundational triad of the middle way, enabling us to respond dynamically to life's challenges with clarity, balance, and inner stability. As the Buddha taught, and as detailed in the document, these three qualities are essential for walking the path that avoids extremes. Mindfulness provides clear seeing without distortion, right effort ensures engagement without strain, and equanimity maintains composure amid flux. Together, they transform reactive habits into wise actions, turning the chaos of daily demands, notifications, pressures, and uncertainties into opportunities for peace and growth. The transcript emphasizes that the middle way isn't a fixed formula, but a lived practice, where these qualities allow us to meet each moment appropriately, like the bamboo bending with the wind or the sitar strings tuned just right for harmony. By nurturing them, we dissolve the three traps of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, fostering a responsive life where challenges no longer overwhelm but reveal our inherent wisdom. This cultivation isn't about perfection but gentle perseverance, accessible even amid overwhelm, leading to the unshakable peace the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree. Mindfulness, the first quality, is the art of seeing clearly what's happening in the present without getting entangled in stories or judgments, serving as the anchor that prevents extremes from pulling us off course. The document describes mindfulness as allowing us to perceive reality as it is, free from exaggerated narratives of catastrophe, aversion, or denial, ignorance, creating space for balanced response. In the Buddha's teaching, mindfulness is the foundation of the Noble Eightfold Path, illuminating the impermanence and non-self that extremes obscure. Practically, it begins with pausing. When faced with a challenge, like mounting work stress, notice the physical sensations, tight chest, thoughts, "I'll never finish," and emotions, frustration, without adding layers like, "I'm a failure." This clear seeing avoids the extreme of over-dramatizing, leading to panic, or ignoring, leading to build-up. Master Dogen's just sitting embodies this, neither striving for special states nor drifting into dullness, but mindful presence to whatever arises. For his students frustrated by lack of breakthroughs, Dogen pointed out they were sitting Buddha, now mindfulness, revealing enlightenment in the ordinary, avoiding the extreme of future seeking. In Maria's caregiving struggle, mindfulness helped her see her exhaustion without judgment, responding to her mother's needs day by day rather than forcing an ideal routine. Cultivation involves daily practices. Start with breath awareness. Notice, inhale, exhale without control, or scan the body during stress, labeling sensations neutrally. Over time, this builds wisdom. Challenges seen as temporary arisings, not personal attacks, freeing energy for skillful action. Right effort, the second quality, involves engaging fully with life without forcing or straining, like the perfectly tuned sitar strings that produce music rather than snapping or slackening. The transcript explains right effort as action aligned with natural rhythms, neither pushing to exhaustion, extreme asceticism, nor lapsing into passivity, indulgence, but a balanced application of energy that supports clarity and growth. The Buddha emphasized this as part of the path, where effort is right when it cultivates wholesome states without attachment to outcomes. In challenges, right effort means discerning where to apply energy, not micromanaging every detail, but focusing on what's essential, like pruning a tree for healthy growth rather than hacking wildly. Master Lingchi's bamboo teaches this. Effort in bending with the wind deeply in storms, lightly in breezes without resistance or collapse. Wang's business crisis resolved through right effort. Instead of extreme analysis, he quieted his mind, applying energy to sensing actual conditions, yielding a harmonious solution. Cultivation. In daily tasks, set intentions, mindfully effort on priorities, release on non-essentials. For emotional struggles, like Ijo's anger, Dogen didn't demand extreme suppression, but right effort in witnessing waves rise and fall, energy directed to awareness over reaction. This avoids burnout, effort becomes sustainable, like Bankei's surrender right effort in non-striving, revealing peace without force. Practically, track energy. Notice when pushing leads to fatigue. Adjust to gentle persistence, short focused bursts over marathons. Equanimity, the third quality, is the stability to remain centered, whether circumstances are favorable or adverse, avoiding emotional swings that extremes amplify. The document portrays equanimity as the even-mindedness that holds all experiences without preference, like the sky unchanged by clouds. The Buddha taught it as a Brahmavihara, essential for the middle way, preventing attachment to highs or aversion to lows. In challenges, equanimity means responding without being thrown off balance. A setback isn't catastrophe, success not overinflation. Joshu's 120-year vitality stemmed from equanimous response, meeting moments as old friends, neither holding past nor grasping future, curious what each teaches. His stick analogy, equanimity in using as needed support without dependence, carry without burden. Cultivation, practice loving, kindness meditation, extending well, wishes to all, fostering evenness. In struggles, like Tanaka's anxiety, Hangpo's cup shatter evoked equanimity, broken yet purposeful, teaching without despair. Tanaka embraced impermanence equanimously, business thriving from steady clarity. For Ryokan, equanimity in solitude, connection, neither needy engagement nor escapist retreat, but balanced sharing. Practically, in conflict, breathe, note, rising emotions without reaction. Equanimity allows response from calm, avoiding retaliation, escalation. These qualities interweave. Mindfulness informs right effort's direction. Equanimity sustains both amid flux. The Buddha's post-fast nourishment. Mindful of needs, effort in balanced intake, equanimity in companion's shock, leading to enlightenment. In modern, like Maria's extremes, mindfulness saw patterns, right effort adjusted presence, equanimity honored variations without guilt. Cultivating, integrate into routine morning mindfulness, scan, effort in intentions, evening equanimity, reflection, avoid force, gentle consistency builds. Document, qualities for middle path: see clearly, engage tuned, remain centered. This cultivation turns challenges harmonious, wisdom from presence, peace in flux. Middle way lived, dynamic, responsive, free. Harmony in relationships and daily living. Harmony in relationships and daily living emerges naturally from the middle way, where we avoid extremes of over-involvement and detachment, fostering connections and routines that are responsive, compassionate, and sustainable. As the document teaches, the Buddha's middle way, discovered through balancing indulgence and self-denial, applies directly to how we interact with others and structure our everyday lives, creating a dynamic equilibrium that honors both our needs and those of the people around us. This harmony isn't about perfect equality or rigid rules, but about meeting each moment with mindfulness, right effort, and equanimity, allowing relationships to flow like a river that adapts to its terrain without flooding or drying up. In daily living, it means avoiding the swings between frantic productivity and lazy avoidance, instead cultivating rhythms that support well-being without force. The transcript emphasizes that in our polarized culture, where relationships often oscillate between codependency and isolation, and daily life between burnout and neglect, the middle way offers a path of wise engagement, where harmony arises from responding to what is actually needed, dissolving conflicts and creating space for joy, growth, and mutual support. By applying this, we transform relationships from battlegrounds of expectations into spaces of authentic presence, and daily routines from exhausting obligations into effortless expressions of balance. In relationships, extremes disrupt harmony. Over-attachment leads to clinging and control, while excessive detachment creates emotional voids. The Buddha taught that attachment and aversion fuel these swings, but the middle way invites us to engage deeply without possession, responding to partners, family, or friends from presence rather than need. The story of David and Maria, a couple on the verge of divorce after 15 years, illustrates this. Their marriage had become a cycle of extremes. David pushed for Maria to be more organized to fit his practical self-image, while Maria demanded more emotional expression from him for romance. Both extremes, giving everything to change the other or withdrawing in frustration, left them feeling judged and unfulfilled. At a Buddhist retreat, the monk challenged them, "Which of you is willing to love the person sitting beside you exactly as they are, without needing them to be different?" This pointed to the middle way, avoiding the extreme of conditional love, attachment to outcomes, or cold resignation, aversion to effort. By responding dynamically, acknowledging each other's fluidity without fixed expectations, they created harmony. David, unpressured, expressed warmth naturally. Maria, uncriticized, embraced structure joyfully. Their relationship deepened into a partnership of free beings choosing connection, not needy individuals demanding fulfillment. The document notes this paradox. Harmony blooms when we stop forcing change, allowing it to unfold organically in the safety of acceptance. Practically, in daily interactions, cultivate this by pausing during conflicts. Mindfully notice your extreme pull, demanding or distancing, then respond with equanimity. Listen without agenda, express needs without ultimatum. This avoids resentment, building trust where both feel seen. Family dynamics benefit similarly, as seen in Maria's caregiving for her mother with Alzheimer's. Initially extreme total immersion leading to burnout, then withdrawal leaving guilt. Neither fostered harmony. Through Zen teachings, she applied the middle way, responding to daily energies with right effort. Some days, full presence for hours. Others, brief visits without self-judgment. This balanced response, neither over-responsible nor neglectful, honored her mother's needs and her own limits, creating compassionate harmony. The transcript stresses equanimity here. Variations aren't failures but natural rhythms, avoiding the extreme of consistency demands. In parent-child or sibling relations, like Sarah's with her addicted son, extremes of enabling, over-involvement, or cutting off detachment harmed both. Middle ways, fierce compassion, love without attachment, setting boundaries dynamically, offer help when helpful, refuse when enabling from clarity, not fear. Harmony, relationship sustained through presence, growth for both. Daily living's harmony comes from avoiding productivity extremes, structuring routines with mindful responsiveness. The Buddha's post-fast life exemplified. Nourished without indulgence, he meditated from balance, avoiding ascetic strain or palace laziness. In modern terms, avoid 18-hour workdays to crashes. Instead, right effort in focused bursts, rest when needed. Master Joshu's longevity. Harmony through dynamic living, engage meaningfully, rest deeply, discipline for clarity, spontaneity for joy. His stick, used as support, aid, carried neither constant lean, dependence, nor never touch, neglect. Practically, in schedules. Mindfulness to see energy levels, effort to prioritize, equanimity to adjust without guilt. For habits like exercise, avoid all or nothing, respond to body's signals, intense when vital, gentle when tired, harmony and consistency without force. Social harmony extends to community, avoid polarization extremes, outrage, apathy, with mindful dialogue, effort in understanding, equanimity in differences. Yunmen's monks disputing texts, extremes of "I'm right, you're wrong." Yunmen avoided by showing both valid yet incomplete teaching like water shaping to containers. Harmony, curiosity over hostility, common ground over division, inner harmony. Avoid self-extremes, perfectionism, giving up. Dogen's just sitting, mindful presence, effort without striving, equanimity and no dramatic insights, practice as enlightenment. For struggles like self-doubt, respond dynamically, acknowledge without indulgence, effort to witness, equanimity to hold without judgment. Ryokan's life, harmony and solitude, connection, retreat to discover offering, engage to share fullness, avoiding needy extremes. Daily, balance alone, time with interaction, responding to inner-outer calls. Cultivating, mindfulness in observation, effort in intentions, equanimity in reflections. Buddha, harmony from avoiding indulgence, mortification. This harmony per document. Relationships as mutual freedom, living as effortless rhythm, middle way lived, responsive connections, balanced days, peace in flow, wisdom in presence, awakening, unconditional love and presence, loving without attachment or conditions. The essence of loving without attachment or conditions, as taught in Buddhist wisdom and Zen stories from the document, lies in recognizing love as the heart's natural state, unconditional warmth that flows freely toward all beings, untwisted by fear, need, or expectation. This metta, or loving kindness, isn't an emotion we manufacture or a feeling dependent on reciprocation. It's the radiance that emerges when the heart is not contracted by the ego's demands. The transcript explains that most of what we call love is actually attachment in disguise. I love you because you make me feel good, or I need you to stay the same for my security. True love, however, says, I want you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. It celebrates growth, even if it leads away, and gives without seeking return, creating joy simply through its expression. The Buddha discovered this when realizing the heart's nature is generous, not needy. Loving without conditions doesn't diminish us but expands our capacity, turning relationships from sources of suffering to avenues of freedom. By distinguishing love from attachment, we transform how we relate to others and ourselves, releasing the exhaustion of possession and control. This unconditional love extends beyond romance to all connections, including self-compassion, where we stop withholding affection until we earn it. As the document invites, this love is your birthright, flowing when we stop blocking it with fear, leading to a profound peace that no loss can threaten. Attachment creates suffering by tying love to outcomes, making it conditional on fulfillment of our needs or fears. The transcript clarifies, attachment is about getting security, validation, completeness, while love is about giving, wanting genuine happiness for the other, regardless. It clings to permanence in impermanent beings, pushing for change to fit our image, or resisting evolution that disrupts it. This leads to pain when unmet, as love becomes a transaction rather than a gift. The Buddha taught that attachment arises from the illusion of self, where we seek to complete our ego through others, but non-self reveals no separate entity needing such completion. Loving without attachment means holding lightly, like wearing clothes that can be changed without affecting the essence beneath. This doesn't mean apathy or lack of care. It's a deeper, sustainable form that allows freedom for both. Paradoxically, releasing attachment often strengthens bonds, as people flourish in the space of unconditional acceptance, without the pressure of meeting expectations. The story of Ani Parchon, a Tibetan nun who cared for a leper colony for 30 years, exemplifies loving without conditions. Abandoned by families and society, the lepers suffered painful deaths in isolation. Ani Parchon cleaned wounds, prepared food, and sat with their fears daily, radiating joy that surprised visitors, not forced cheer, but deep contentment from true acceptance. A wealthy merchant, expecting grimness, watched her laugh with a disfigured man, bandaging gently while teasing his jokes. Shocked, he asked, "Sister, how can you love these people so freely? They give nothing, no status, wealth, comfort. Many are bitter, ungrateful." Ani Parchon smiled radiantly. "You misunderstand love. I don't love to get something. I love because love is what I am, when not protecting myself from life. They give the greatest gift. Discovering my heart isn't small and needy but vast, fuller the more it gives. I am not loving them. Love expresses through me when I stop blocking with fear." This metta flowed without agenda or reciprocation need, embracing their suffering as is. The document notes her harmony. Love without attachment turned service into expansion, peace in giving, unbound by return. Applying this to personal struggles, Sarah's relationship with her addicted son shows loving without attachment in action. For years, extremes ruled, enabling destruction out of love, attachment to his okayness for her self-worth, then cutting off in frustration, aversion to pain. Neither healed, both deepened wounds. Learning to distinguish, Sarah saw her love mixed with needs for him to recover, to feel good mother, appreciate sacrifices for value. These were understandable, but attachment, not love. Through guidance, she practiced fierce compassion, wishing happiness while accepting his choices as his. She offered help when genuinely supportive, refused when enabling, without resentment. This without conditions didn't make her passive. It strengthened boundaries from clarity, not fear. The transcript describes her shift. Releasing grip on change allowed seeing him clearly, appreciating his wholeness beyond addiction, trusting his healing capacity. Loving as is not approving behavior, but recognizing inherent worth brought freedom, sadness without responsibility to fix, harmony in relationship without codependency. Romantic love transforms similarly, as in David and Maria's marriage. Extremes of demands and withdrawal stemmed from attachment. Love conditional on fitting ideals. The retreat monks' question, "Love exactly as they are," exposed this. Avoiding extremes, they embraced without needing difference. David, Maria rested in presence, love as gift, not debt. Harmony, intimacy deepened, growth paradoxical, unpressured, natural changes occurred. Self-love without conditions is foundational. Buddha, you deserve your love and affection. Place hand on heart. May I be happy, peaceful, free. Notice conditional voices, but fix this first. Ego's attachment, non. Self reveals worth inherent, not earned. Rest without self-judgment. Love flows inward, outward, extending metta. Start self, loved one, neutral, difficult, all beings. Not abstract, genuine care for strangers, animals, earth interconnection beyond attachment. Dalai Lama's compassion for oppressors, without conditions, seeing confusion not fixed evil. Avoids hatred's poison, harmony even in opposition. Master Ajo, Dogen, attachment to teacher's life prevented true love. Releasing, love, infinite essence, inseparable. Cultivating, notice attachment in relations, need for reciprocation. Release, wish well without. Daily, kind acts without score, boundaries from wisdom. This without attachment, conditions per document. Heart spacious as sky, warm as sun, generous as ocean. Love not gotten but are flowing freely, transforming relations, living into joy, peace beyond loss.